Chapter 805. Mo Jiang was currently in a drama called Fengqing Banquet. It was an ancient drama about a few people with different fates at a banquet. Mo Jiang was playing the role of a peerless second female lead. She was a complete flower vase character. When Xiao Jin arrived, he saw Mo Jiang wearing a red dress. She was like a peerless demon that could steal people's souls. She was sitting on a recliner, lazily reading her lines. Xie was whispering something to her. Probably because Mo Jiang was lying down and Xie was half squatting, Xie looked a little humble. When Mo Jiang saw Xiao Jin, she immediately waved at Xiao Jin. When the crew saw Xiao Jin appear, they were shocked. They had seen demonesses like Mo Jiang before, but this was the first time they had seen a celestial fairy like Xiao Jin. Just her aura was unforgettable. When the director, who was cursing at the side, saw Xiao Jin appear, he was stunned. When Xiao Jin walked towards Mo Jiang sat up from her recliner. When she saw Xiao Jin, she shouted, "Xiao Jin?" Xiao Jin nodded. Xie looked over. When he saw Xiao Jin, he was slightly surprised and shocked. However, he quickly calmed down and nodded at Xiao Jin in a friendly manner. "Hello." Since it was Mo Jiang who greeted him, he must be a friend of Mo Jiang's. As expected, a great beauty's friend was also a great beauty. Xiao Jin was currently staring at the demonized spiritual reader. However, she didn't sense any demonized spiritual reader here. Mo Jiang directly said, "They're not here yet. They're taking turns. Wait a moment," and answered her question. Xiao Jin smiled faintly and nodded. Xie looked a little curious. "Mo Jiang, is this your friend?" Mo Jiang's expression was surprisingly calm. "You don't need to know." Xie was rendered speechless by her words. Xie seemed a little aggrieved, but he couldn't say anything to Mo Jiang. He just looked at Mo Jiang as if he had been wronged. Xiao Jin glanced at Xie, but didn't say anything. Mo Jiang brought Xiao Jin to the side for a chat. Xiao Jin then calmly said, "If you don't like him, why do you still want to be a couple with him?" Right now, the news was all over the place. A newly debuted peerless beauty and a fresh and handsome idol. This combination was a little unexpected, but it was also surprisingly delicious. "I don't know either." Mo Jiang pursed her lips and looked into the distance. She was a little confused. How should I put it? When I see him, I always have a very contradictory feeling. I hate him, but I also want to forgive him. Because of this contradictory feeling, Mo Jiang had always been indifferent to Xie. However, she didn't reject Xie's approach. Xiao Jin knew that this probably had something to do with Mo Jiang's memories. She chuckled. "If you really don't like him, you don't have to force yourself. Even if you don't want to be a couple with him, you can still become popular." That's not the case. Mo Jiang touched her face and suddenly looked at Xiao Jin. Her expression was a little serious. "Since he likes me, why should I reject him? I'm so beautiful. I have a few spare tires. You can understand, right?" Xiao Jin. Not only did Mo Jiang quickly integrate into modern society, she also learned some of the immoral essence of this society. Xiao Jin still smiled. "If you want to, then do as you wish." Chapter 806. Mo Jiang nodded. "Thank you for supporting me." Xiao Jin. "I don't want to care about you, not support." Mo Jiang. "Same meaning?" Xiao Jin. As they spoke, Xiao Jin sensed something. Mo Jiang also narrowed his eyes. "She's here." She rubbed her chin and looked at the person walking over with a playful smile. This little girl is quite interesting, because the person who came was an ordinary-looking girl. The girl's face could only be considered ordinary. The only eye-catching thing about her was that she was very fat. She wasn't very fat, about 160 pounds. But as a staff member of the film crew, her fat was indeed very eye-catching. The expression on her face was also timid. When she walked over, her back was hunched and her head was lowered. Her bad posture also showed her timidity and inferiority. Mo Jiang said again, "She's even thinner than when I saw her yesterday." Xiao Jin glanced at her. Mo Jiang said, "When I first saw her, she was about 200 pounds. But now she's lost so much weight. They all say that she's working hard to lose weight." The expression on her face was thought-provoking. Xiao Jin naturally understood what it meant. That girl couldn't be said to be demonized, but her obsession was too deep and she was possessed. Just like some things needed to be exchanged for other things. Her thinness had been exchanged in an immoral way. She was still so heavy now. In the future, she would only get thinner and thinner. Xiao Jin said, she will eventually become so thin that she won't be recognizable. Mo Jiang, who doesn't know? But once she was possessed, there was no saving her. Fang Shulan, come, this is for you. A staff member passed by and handed a large box to the chubby girl. The box was a little heavy. Xiao Jin and Mo Jiang clearly saw that when the box was in her hands, she swayed and almost fell. She barely managed to catch it. The staff member said very naturally, it's a little heavy. Hurry up and move it to the prop room. Fang Shulan said with some difficulty. Okay. Then, step by step, his footsteps were somewhat unsteady as he walked towards the prop room. She had to pass by Xiao Jin and Mo Jiang. The moment Fang Shulan saw them, her eyes flashed with surprise. Then, she quickly lowered her head, not wanting Mo Jiang and Xiao Jin to see her. This was the normal state of a person with extreme inferiority when faced with someone who was too perfect. It was just like how ordinary people would take a few more glances at good-looking people on the street. There was also a group of people who felt that such people were too good-looking and did not dare to look at or talk to them. Xiao Jin glanced at him and said, I haven't killed anyone, but it was not far away. After all, he was demonized. He knew what price he had to pay, but he couldn't stop. Mo Jiang sighed. The director called for Mo Jiang from the other side. Mo Jiang rolled her eyes, not caring about her image at all. Then, she walked over. Xiao Jin stood there and did not know what they were talking about. Mo Jiang and the director looked over at Xiao Jin at the same time. Then, Mo Jiang shook his head. The director looked regretful. Fang Shulan did not come out of the prop room for a long time. Xiao Jin waited for a while. Then, Mo Jiang came over. Our director asked if you were interested in acting in a role. Xiao Jin, not interested. Mo Jiang, he paid? Xiao Jin looked over. Mo Jiang said, I know you're not the kind of person to betray your character for money. Xiao Jin, indeed, I agreed with 10 million. Mo Jiang. Chapter 807. The male and female lead of this drama didn't even earn 10 million. Xiao Jin's appetite had been spoiled by the spirit group. After a while, she saw Fang Shulan walk out with something in her hand. It looked like a lunchbox, and she passed it to one of the supporting actresses. The actress didn't mind at all. Instead, she took the lunchbox with relish and started eating. Others might not be able to see it, but Xiao Jin could clearly see that while the female star was eating, wisps of pure white smoke from her body were being transferred to Fang Shulan through the air. Fang Shulan's body seemed to have lost some weight. She might have lost half a kilogram. But for her current base, it was too inconspicuous. Almost no one would notice such a strange change. The actress didn't seem to have changed much, but her face was shrouded in a layer of gray smoke. Demonized psychic sorcerers were either tempted, driven by hatred, or their obsession was too deep. There were differences between the two, but they had one thing in common. They both wanted to kill people. Fang Shulan's ability was to absorb other people's energy and transform herself. It made her lose weight, but this method was addictive. It was like taking drugs. Others would suffer physical damage. If Fang Shulan caught someone and sucked it, that person would die, and Fang Shulan would lose weight faster. Demonized spiritualists were no different from normal spiritualists at the beginning. The only difference was the damage they caused to people. One had a clear line in their heart, while the other simply wanted people to die. Since Fang Shulan was demonized, she could endure it now, but it didn't mean she could in the future. Xiao Jin paused for a moment and called He Yao to tell her that there was a demonized spiritualist here. Naturally, He Yao quickly came and took Fang Shulan away. Xiao Jin took her demonized spirit seed on the way. Since she found out early, there was no reason for her to wait until Fang Shulan became a disaster. She hadn't killed anyone before. If Xiao Jin took her spirit seed, she might have a chance to become a normal person. The spirit group was more cautious about demonized spiritualists now. But this time, the situation was different. He Yao locked her up after taking her back. When Mo Jiang returned from filming a scene, he found that Feng Shuilan was gone. He was a little surprised. You acted so quickly. Did you destroy the evidence? Xiao Jin laughed. Someone else took him away. Meng Qingyu's spirit group specializes in dealing with such matters. Mo Jiang nodded. When he saw that Xiao Jin was about to leave, he suddenly said to her, "When I was in the coffin, you took away my array point, right?" Although Xiao Jin had taken away her array point, she still had her own abilities. After all, after her death, the array points were something extra. Xiao Jin nodded. Mo Jiang frowned and pressed his chest. "I feel like there's still a formation point in me that I haven't discovered yet." She was a formation master after all, so her perception was much stronger. The formation point in her heart had been discovered, but she didn't know what it was, and it was impossible for her to remove it from her heart. Even Xiao Jin didn't know what the formation point was. It was as if the formation point was completely wrapped in their hearts. Other than when there were abnormal movements, it was very calm most of the time. Naturally, people outside couldn't sense it. It might be useful. Xiao Jin didn't explain too much. "You won't die. Don't worry." Mo Jiang was speechless. Who was worried about this? Chapter 808. When Xiao Jin returned home, he heard another shocking piece of gossip. Something big had happened at the Ji family. Ji Sikai had investigated and found out that his car accident was not an accident. Shang Yuan had colluded with an outsider. That outsider was called Mo Huan. It didn't matter how they found out, but it was related to Ho Wan. The most important thing was that Shang Yuan had been exposed. Mo Huan had disappeared, and Ho Wan was the scapegoat. Because that person was one of Ho Wan's boyfriends. Even Mu Xiangshan couldn't help but look askance at the development of this matter. The Ji family was in big trouble now, and Ji Huai almost had a heart attack because of Ji Sikai. Old Master Ji was personally handling this matter, and Ji Sikai was likely to use this matter to squeeze his father out of the Ji group's power center. Mu Xiangshan was probably too gossipy. At home, he excitedly explained the whole story to Xiao Jin, the only person who didn't know. "Have you seen a father who oppresses his own son? Ji Sikai's father is one." Mu Xiangshan sighed. "The Ji Corporation's Jiangshan. Back then, your grandfather merged his own company into the Ji Corporation, causing the Ji Corporation to become powerful. The family in power is the first branch of the Ji family. Your grandfather doesn't care about anything and just waits for money. Ji Chiyue and Chai Yueli are also useless. They don't have any say in the company. Ji Sikai's family and the second branch of the Ji family are fighting fiercely. Ji Sikai has been talented since young. Since his grandfather is in charge of the company, he must be thinking of ways to nurture his own grandson. Ji Huai is a muddle-headed person. He likes the younger one outside and doesn't care about his own son. Ji Sikai has been under his grandfather's care for many years. It's just that Ji Huai has been suppressing him and the second branch. Ji Huai is capable, but he's a little blind. Ji Sikai's grandfather saw that Ji Sikai was his son, so he didn't interfere in the conflict between father and son. Instead, he nurtured Ji Sikai. But this matter is different. Ji Huai's youngest son dared to touch Ji Sikai. That's the same as courting death. Now that Ji Huai is in a predicament, Ji Sikai can use this matter to take away his father's authority. Xiao Jin. After hearing the whole story, she sighed and said, "Xiangshan really knows everything." Mu Xiangshan's face sank. "What Xiangshan, old man?" Xiao Jin. "Oh, Mu Xiangshan." Xiao Fei, who was listening to the gossip at the side, was also a little puzzled. It's fine if he likes the outside world, but why would he collude with the second branch to fight against his own son? Aren't you siding with outsiders? You don't even want your own money? The Ji family's old master and the second branch's old master were biological brothers, but they both had their own families. Even biological brothers kept clear accounts. How could Ji Huai be so stupid? Mu Xiangshan snorted. "Didn't you hear the rumors outside? Ji Sikai has disliked Ji Huai since he was young because of his mother. Ji Huai also wants to add the two illegitimate sons into the Ji family's genealogy. It's just that Ji Sikai has always been in the way. It's impossible for him to be happy. His son, who always goes against him, probably isn't on the same side. It's just like how Jinming is biased towards outsiders. Can you tolerate it when he doesn't care about your three biological sons? Xiao Fei, don't talk nonsense. Jinming doesn't have them. Mu Xiangshan, let me give you an example. Look at how agitated you are. Chapter 809. Xiao Fei snorted and asked, "Should we go over and take a look?" Mu Xiangshan waved his hand unhappily. "You're just a short-sighted person. They're in such a big mess now. Who wouldn't know that you're just there to watch the show?" He paused and said, "Let's wait until they're done." Even if they couldn't see the show, they had to see how it ended. Xiao Jin and Xiao Fei. Not long after, Mu Xiangshan received another call. After hanging up, he slapped his thigh. "Oh my, Ji Qiyue and the others are coming back. Big Brother Ji is so angry this time. He even said that he's going to announce his will." The distribution of old Master Ji's assets was also a mystery. After all, he was still alive, and the two branches were fighting so fiercely. No one knew if he was helping Ji Huai or Ji Sikai. Needless to say, Ji Sikai would get the biggest share this time. When the time came, the Ji family would change. Ji Qiyue and Chai Yueli received the news and were rushing back. Xiao Fei was confused. What does this have to do with them? This is the first branch's business. What does it have to do with the third branch? When the will comes out, the shares will definitely be redistributed. Doesn't Ji Pingon have to arrange his own affairs? I think Xiao Jin will have to go too. I heard that Pingon seems to have left her some shares. Sai, how nice. She doesn't have to do anything and gets money for free. He looked at Xiao Jin as he spoke. Xiao Jin. Xiao Fei looked at Xiao Jin worriedly. The internal struggles of the rich are too complicated. If Jin really gets old Master Ji's shares, won't many people come looking for her? And her mother, Ji Sikai, got into a car accident. Won't my Jin? Xiao Fei had watched too many dramas involving the rich and powerful. She couldn't help but make wild guesses. Xiao Jin laughed. Fei Fei, you're thinking too much. How many shares can I get? No one will care about me. Even if someone cared, they did not have the ability to do so. Xiao Fei sobbed. Jin, you don't understand. You don't understand how scary the rich are these days. Look, even Ji Sikai got into trouble. Mu Xiangshan couldn't take it anymore. What happened to Ji Sikai was an accident. Why are you worried about Xiao Jin? Why don't you worry about other people? Xiao Fei, who else would I be worried about other than Jin? She was worried about those who wanted to harm Xiao Jin. Mu Xiangshan clicked his tongue and went fishing. He couldn't explain it clearly to women. Xiao Jin told Xiao Fei not to worry. Now the Ji family was still in trouble. She had to go to the Song family tomorrow. Now he had become a busy person. The next day, she went to school and returned home in the afternoon, waiting for Song Yanqing to send someone to pick her up. After a while, even Mu Xiangshan received the news that the second uncle of the Song family had come back. Song Yanqing called Xiao Jin after receiving the second uncle. I've picked up second uncle. I'm coming to pick you up. Are you at home now? Xiao Jin said. Xiao Fei was still checking whether the things she had prepared were suitable. She was a little nervous. Mu Qilian was also at the side at this moment. Hearing this, she complained, "Look at how anxious you are. Xiao Jin is just going to the Song family as a guest. What? Are you going to marry your daughter off?" As soon as he finished speaking, he was slapped. "Shut up if you don't know how to talk." Muzilian covered the back of his head and said angrily, "In this family, you bully the weak and fear the strong. You whine to others, but always used violence to me." Chapter 810. Xiao Fei glared at him and ignored him. Muzilian looked at Xiao Jin. After looking him up and down, he suddenly said, "Behave well. Don't disgrace the Mu family." After saying this, he slipped away before Xiao Fei slapped him for the second time. Xiao Fei shouted at him from behind, "Where are you going, you son of a bitch?" Xiao Jin said, "He's going to the disco." Recently, Musilian was expelled for not joining the army. At first, he was friendly, but recently, he began to degenerate again. He danced with his bad friends every day. If he wanted to continue his studies, he would have to wait until next semester. Therefore, he was idle this semester. When he studied, he would play games or go to the disco. His life was very fulfilling. Xiao Fei was speechless. Don't learn from him, Jean. You are a good boy. At that time, when Musilian was not there, Xiao Jin always found an excuse to go to the disco. Xiao Fei was very angry. Xiao Jin nodded and chuckled. After a while, Song Yanqing arrived. He came to the Mu family to pick up Xiao Jin. When he saw Xiao Fei, he said, "Annie Xiao, I'm here to pick up Xiao Jin. Come on, come on." Xiao Fei was very happy. Anyway, Song Yanqing was so good-looking. Xiao Fei was happy as long as he saw him. Song Yanqing also smiled gently. He nodded at Xiao Jin and naturally took Xiao Jin away. He saw that Xiao Jin was still carrying something in his hand. He took it over. Annie Xiao prepared a gift. They had even prepared an exquisite packaging, and it looked like it was worth a lot. She was so thoughtful. Xiao Jin nodded. She said that I should prepare a gift for the first visit. Last time was different. It was just an ordinary friend who went over as a guest. This time, she was his girlfriend. It was rare for the Song family to gather together. Song Yanqing nodded. It's good that you and Annie Xiao have such intentions. You've seen our family before. They're all very kind. His kindness was genuine, but it was also directed at Xiao Jin. When they took Xiao Jin to the car, Xiao Jin asked, "Has second uncle gone back?" Song Yanqing nodded. "He should be home by now." Speaking of this, he couldn't help but laugh. Second uncle has changed a lot. Perhaps because he realized that his purpose had been exposed, second uncle had completely given up on himself. He no longer came back like before and even put on a meticulous disguise. He had completely exposed his true colors. This time, even Song Yanqing, who had seen a lot of things, was shocked. He had thought that second uncle, who had revealed his true colors, might be different from what he had imagined, but he hadn't expected him to be so different. However, Xiao Jin had never seen him before, so he couldn't imagine it. Thus, he followed Song Yanqing to the Song family. When they arrived at the Song family's courtyard, Song Suyu stood at the entrance of the hall and waited. When he saw Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing get out of the car together, he smiled. "You're here?" It was obvious that he genuinely liked Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin nodded and called out, "Suyu." The Song family members were all happy and didn't care about how Xiao Jin addressed them. When she saw Xiao Jin take out the gifts he had prepared for the Song family, she smiled even more happily. "You're already here. Why are you still giving us gifts? It's not your first time here." Xiao Jin said gently, "Etiquette is always necessary." Song Yanqing asked, "Where's mom and dad?" Song Suyu said, "They're chatting with second uncle inside. They're waiting for you. The food is ready. They're just waiting for you to serve it." Chapter 8:11. When Song Yanqing brought Xiao Jin in, she was indeed shocked when she saw second uncle. All these wealthy people that Xiao Jin had met for such a long time were at least well-dressed and courteous. It wasn't that second uncle wasn't polite. It was that he was too wild. He had the appearance of a wandering artist. His hair reached his shoulders, and it was curly. She didn't know if it was naturally curly or permed. He hadn't shaved and was wearing a leather jacket and pants. His face was exceptionally good-looking, and she could vaguely see that he resembled his older brother, Song Yanqing. He was in his 40s and had never been married. His older brother looked younger. He had a particularly weathered and unruly aura. When they saw Xiao Jin, Song Shirin and Qin Yuan smiled warmly. "Xiao Jin, come and sit down." Song Yanqing's second uncle, Song Simeon, also sat there and looked at Xiao Jin curiously. Yes, it was just as Suyu had said. She had an ethereal air about her. She looked different. She was a perfect match for his nephew. He always felt that his nephew was too high up in the sky. He hadn't expected there to be someone even more ethereal. Indeed, they liked the same type of people. Song Yanqing introduced her in a deep voice. "Xiao Jin, this is my second uncle." Xiao Jin looked at Song Simeon and smiled. "Hello." She didn't greet him, but her tone was quite polite. Song Simeon didn't feel that anything was wrong. He even reached out his hand to Xiao Jin. "Hello. I'm curious. When you and Yanqing were together, who confessed first?" Xiao Jin was speechless. "It was me," Song Yanqing said thoughtfully, directly admitting it. He pulled Xiao Jin's hand and asked her to sit down. He said softly, "Second uncle, it's the first time you're meeting her. Don't be too direct. You'll scare her. She can't take it." Song Simeon was speechless. Everyone else. Why did they feel that there was something wrong with these words? Xiao Jin also laughed but didn't say anything. He just nodded again. "Let's not talk about this for now. Let's eat first to welcome His Majesty." Qin Yuan was extremely happy today. Ever since Xiao Jin came in, she had not stopped smiling. The last time they met, it wasn't like that. She didn't expect her son to bring someone back this time. Now, the stone in her heart had been lifted. If they got together, there was a possibility of marriage. If they got married, there was a possibility of having grandchildren. Then Qin Yuan thought of Xiao Jin. He was only 20 years old and in his third year of university. He could not help but feel as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. Sigh. At least another 1.5 years. At that time, Guanqing was already 27 years old. Forget it. They were still young. As a mother, she could accept getting married before the age of 30. When the dishes were served, Song Qianin asked, "Did you see He Ning when you were abroad?" He was asking Song Yanqing. Song Henning was Song Yanqing's aunt. "I saw her." Song Qianin was clearly surprised to hear this question. The smile on her face gradually faded. She said she's fine. Her husband doesn't seem to be in a good state. Song Yanqing and Xiao Jin didn't say anything. It was good that he wasn't in a good state. At least it meant that nothing else had happened. Song Qianin hesitated for a moment before asking. They're living an ordinary life abroad. Even if the Feng family collapsed, they wouldn't be like this, right? "Brother, what's going on?" Song Qianin shook her head. "It's hard to say. I said I wanted to help He Ning and her husband, but she refused." Chapter 812. Song Henning accepted his daughter's suggestion and Song Yanqing's words. Now, the Feng family's debt needed to be paid by themselves. It was the best that they didn't get into trouble. Song Henning didn't ask for too much. If they could get back on their feet, it would mean that this was over. Song Simeon didn't understand, but he had heard some things about the Feng family. He clicked his tongue and said, "The Feng family is really strange. I heard that many people in their family got into trouble this time. God's revenge is quite cruel." "That's enough." Qin Yuan glared at him. "Don't talk nonsense. We're not only picking you up today, but we're also entertaining Xiao Jin." Song Simeon. Okay. It was obvious that Song Simeon's personality was different from that of the Song family. During the meal, they chatted. Most of it was about Song Simeon's problems abroad. Occasionally, they would ask about Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin answered them all. It was all about trivial matters. There was nothing to talk about. Then, they heard about the Ji family. Song Simeon had more information. He said that Ji Huai was trying to win over the shareholders. He probably wanted the shareholders to support him on the board of directors. Unfortunately, no one dared to support him because of what he had done. Because of this, Ji Huai was likely to be kicked out of the power center. When the time came, Ji Kai would take over. Young people had different styles. Song Simeon even praised him. Ji Kai is young, but he's quite capable. It might not be a bad thing for the Ji family to be led by him. No one in the younger generation of the second and third branches can compare to him. Then, he glanced at Song Yanqing and smiled mysteriously. He didn't say anything. Ji Kai looked ruthless on the surface, but he was also ruthless in business. His son looked gentle, but he was steady in business. When it was time to make a move, he never hesitated. He was satisfied to have such a son. Then, Qin Yuan stepped on Song Simeon. Song Simeon. Only then did he remember that Xiao Jin was also the granddaughter of the Ji family's third uncle. It was just that no one had heard of this news before, and Xiao Jin had not returned to the Ji family, so no one remembered it. Song Simeon wasn't in charge of anything, but she was someone who loved to see the world burn. That's it? Wasn't the G family obvious? Other than G Sekai, who else could take over the G family? That dog Ji Huai isn't a good person, but his son is quite promising. Qin Yuan coughed. Your Highness, why are you speaking in front of the child? Song Sinian restrained himself a little. That good-for-nothing Ji Huai is indeed lucky. Everyone. Xiao Jin felt that if this person was placed in front of Mu Xiangshan and Mu Zilian, they would definitely have something in common. After the meal, Song Yanqing took Xiao Jin back to his courtyard. His parents must have something to say to second uncle. The moon was bright tonight. As they walked, Song Yanqing suddenly asked, "Are you going back tonight? Why don't you stay here and rest? I'll come over later to talk to you." Xiao Jin was stunned for a moment before she realized what he meant. She nodded slightly. "Okay, I'll call Fei Fei." Seeing that she agreed, Song Yanqing smiled gently. The moonlight illuminated half of his face. It was as bright as moonlight, cold and noble. Xiao Jin looked at him and felt that he was indeed the most good-looking person in the world. He was so good-looking that she sometimes wanted to look at him more. Chapter 8:13. Xiao Jin thought so, but he didn't know that Song Yanqing also thought so. They came to the yard and didn't rush to go up. Instead, they sat on the deck chairs by the pool. There was a pool here and the scenery was good. He also had a flower garden, which he would take care of when he was free. When he was idle before, these things were particularly easy to pass the time and not tiring. Xiao Jin looked at the clear water in the pool and suddenly said, "Have you used this water?" Song Yanqing chuckled. "Since that person melted, I haven't used this water. He just used it as a decoration." He was weak and not suitable for swimming before. After he could swim, this kind of thing happened again. Most of the time, Azai would use the pool. But since last time, Azai was scolded by him when he wanted to swim. Although Azai was bold, if he knew that a person had melted in the pool, even if the water had been changed countless times, he would probably be creeped out. At this time, he was tactful. Seeing Miss Chiao and the young master by the pool, he found a secluded place to avoid disturbing the two people. Sigh. It was another day of lamenting that he was a solo player in his mother's womb. The water in the pool swayed slightly. The ripples reflected through the light on Xiao Jin's cheeks, which had a kind of hazy photosynthetic beauty. Song Yanqing suddenly stretched out his fingertips and touched Xiao Jin's cheek. It was soft and tender, like tofu. Xiao Jin turned his head and just looked at him calmly. He didn't speak or object. Song Yanqing suddenly sighed. His voice was strangely gentle and low in the moonlight. "Xiao Jin, do you know what love is?" "Yes." Song Yanqing was stunned and then smiled. "Then do you know that I like you?" Xiao Jin. He felt that some words could be fooled for a lifetime. Some words had to be said at the right time. "I know." Her voice was very soft, but also very clear. Song Yanqing's smile froze slightly. "You know, but do you understand?" "Although I don't understand." Xiao Jin poked his chin with his finger. "But I also understand that if you don't like it, you wouldn't have asked me to pretend to be your girlfriend." Song Yanqing couldn't help but laugh. "Since you know, why did you still promise me?" "I don't want to change anything with you, so I agreed." His gaze was deep as he stared into her clear eyes. It was hard to imagine that she could still be so calm when saying such words. Sure enough, the person who fell in love first was the one who was deeply in love. He had to admit that. Song Yanqing. "Then do you like me?" Xiao Jin was silent for a while. After a while, he said, "I didn't understand love before, and I don't understand it now. I've never had such a thing." However, there were still some changes. She had seen too many things, and her emotions were bound to change. Just like how she gradually fell in love with the Mu family and took them under her wings. This was a kind of protection, but also a manifestation of love. After saying this, she thought again, "But it's always different for you." It was always different for him. Actually, hearing this sentence was already more than enough. He obtained a kind of complete satisfaction in his heart, so satisfied that he let out a sigh. His fingertips moved slightly, and he suddenly turned his cheek. The corner of his lips gently brushed Xiao Jin's cheek. It was just a faint moment, like a dragonfly skimming the water with a careful test. Song Suyu in the distance. Under the moonlight, they were a perfect couple. She was lonely and cold. Chapter 814. Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing both knew that their sister was here. But Xiao Jin didn't expect Song Yanqing to suddenly turn his head and kiss her. It wasn't exactly a kiss. It was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. There was almost no feeling. It was as if he had only used the corner of his lips to express his respect for her to the greatest extent. Perhaps it was sudden, but it was fine. Xiao Jin was silent for a moment. She saw that Song Yanqing's eyes were dark, but they were shining like stars. Under the moonlight, the two of them were equally quiet. Song Suyu felt that he had come at the wrong time and was a little embarrassed. Xiao Jin turned her head and looked at Song Suyu. Her eyes were naturally calm, as if she wasn't surprised by Song Yanqing's actions at all. This made Song Suyu feel that he was the one who was surprised. Song Yanqing also turned around and looked at Song Suyu naturally with a faint smile. Sister. Her tone was gentle. The two of them weren't embarrassed. What did she mean by being embarrassed? Song Suyu composed himself and walked over with a smile, pretending not to see it. Xiao Jin isn't going back tonight, right? Xiao Jin nodded. Song Yanqing also said, she's staying with me tonight. Do you have something to say to her? I can avoid it. Song Suyu didn't object. Obviously, what she wanted to say wasn't suitable for her brother to hear. Song Yanqing nodded and considerately went into his room first, leaving Xiao Jin and Song Suyu to talk. Song Suyu sat in the seat that Song Yanqing had just sat in. He looked at Xiao Jin with a sincere and gentle smile on his face. Xiao Jin, this is the first time we've talked like this. Xiao Jin nodded. Do you have anything to say to me? Song Suyu looked very similar to Song Yanqing. The difference was that Song Yanqing was a combination of absolute advantages. Of course, Song Suyu's appearance was not bad, but in comparison, her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes were always a little duller than Song Yanqing's. When she stood beside Song Yanqing, she was not so outstanding. Human genes were wondrous. No matter what, Song Suyu was still a proper young lady from a prestigious family. She had the unique demeanor of a rich young lady. From her temperament to her figure, she was perfect. Moreover, she was the same as Song Yanqing, leaning towards gentleness. She treated people and things with a kind of politeness. It's not that I have anything to say to you. Song Suyu smiled. You and my brother have started dating. As his sister, of course I sincerely congratulate you. In the past, I even lamented that my younger brother didn't find a girlfriend, even though he was 25 years old. Even if my parents didn't say anything, they were also anxious. In the past, it was also because Yan's health wasn't good. We couldn't rush him even if we urged him. Now that there was no need to rush him, he naturally found it. Chapter 815. Not to mention making him fall in love with her. In the beginning, Song Yanqing didn't fall in love with Xiao Jin at first sight. It was just that she gradually understood him during the process of interacting with him, and her feelings slowly changed. Oh, Song Si was a little curious. If you're worried about this, I can guarantee you that Yanqing has never liked anyone other than you. We're both girls, so it's easier for us to talk. You can also tell sister that you've never liked anyone before. Of course, Xiao Jin shook his head. Even in the past 20 years, Xiao Jin, who didn't have the memory of an array master, wasn't unmoved. It was just that she was much more straightforward. She only had some appreciation for good-looking boys. She didn't really like anyone. After all, she was much younger. Song Suyu sighed. It's indeed fate that you two can meet each other. Song Suyu wasn't single until now. Her brother was 25, and she was 26. How could there be no one chasing after her? In the family, her parents weren't actually worried about Song Yanqing, but about Song Suyu. Because she was a girl and an older sister, Song Suyu had experienced a few relationships, and they all broke up peacefully. There really wasn't a relationship that was so strong that she wanted to get married. The love in the wealthy families was also mixed with some benefits. Most of the people who had pursued Song Suyu were the sons of the Song family's partners, or the second generation of the tycoons. It wasn't that there wasn't any true love, but it wasn't easy to meet one. There were also many people around her who approached her with ulterior motives. Therefore, Song Suyu was a little emotional about Xiao Jin and her younger brother. She was also a little envious. The two of them didn't have any interests involved. Even when they were in a relationship, they were like immortals. She just wanted to meet someone she truly liked, someone she could think about getting married to. Xiao Jin looked at Song Suyu and pursed his lips into a faint smile. Suyu, are you anxious about your own matters? You don't have to be anxious. The person you like will appear sooner or later. Song Suyu's love scene was very late, but it wasn't that it didn't exist. Moreover, with the existence of the Song family, Song Suyu didn't need to get married early. She had time to find her true love. How could a girl marry late? An outstanding girl like Song Suyu wouldn't lack pursuers when she was old. I have to thank you for saying that. Song Suyu smiled. I'm not in a hurry to fall in love. I have a lot of things to do and don't have time to manage a relationship. Song Shireen didn't hold back either. She and Song Yanqing had split the position of heir in half. She would take as much as she could. Song Suyu knew very well. Her pursuits were somewhat different from her brother's, so she had been busy overseas in recent years, leaving the domestic affairs to Song Yanqing. It was also because of Song Shireen's fair treatment that Song Suyu had never had any conflicts with his younger brother, Song Yanqing, since they were young. Song Shireen and Song Shireen had never had any conflicts with each other. Xiao Jin nodded. It's good to pursue your own career. Song Suyu said, What about you? What do you want to do after graduation? Xiao Jin, I don't have such pursuits. I opened a fortune-telling shop online. Song Suyu. It was hard to say when faced with such a Buddhist mentality. She knew that Xiao Jin was a little different, so she didn't insist on this topic. She just said, It's good that you have your own choice. The next time we meet will be during the new year. I have to go abroad with my father tomorrow. The Song family was too busy and rarely had time to gather. Chapter 8:16. Xiao Jin and Song Suyu exchanged a few words. In the end, Song Suyu said, You don't have to worry about those things. If there's anything, just tell me in Guanxing. Those who shouldn't disturb you won't come looking for you. She was referring to the Ji family. To them, the matter of the Ji family was not a secret. They all knew that Xiao Jin was Ji Pinggan's granddaughter. Naturally, they also knew about Ji Chiyue's fight with Chai Yueli and Ji Fan. In addition, the Ji family had been in chaos recently. Even Ji Sikai had gotten into trouble. Although Xiao Jin was away, it was still a little risky. Xiao Jin naturally wasn't worried, but she didn't refute Song Suyu's good intentions. After the conversation, Song Suyu didn't leave. Second Uncle Song Simeon arrived. He still had that wild and unruly look on his face. When he walked over, he saw that Song Suyu and Xiao Jin were both there. He exclaimed, Yo, are you two whispering to each other? Song Suyu was still a little amused when he saw his appearance. Second uncle, you're still in our family. Can't you be more mature? When you came back in the past, you would still tidy up. Why are you like this now? I find it annoying. Song Simeon waved his hand. Anyway, Guanxing already knows. That's it. It's boring to pretend. In order to show his weakness in front of Song Yanqing, he had to shave and cut his hair every time he came back. He also had to wear a white robe and try to look like he would collapse at any time when he coughed so that Song Yanqing would realize that his second uncle really couldn't handle any work. Now that things were exposed, he didn't need to pretend anymore. Song Suyu snorted and laughed. Second uncle, you've been so free all these years. You don't have to worry about anything. Look at my father and then look at my brother. Don't you feel guilty at all? Song Sinian coughed. She knew that she was being unreasonable. Let's not talk about the past. Besides, I'm really not interested. You can't force me. I'm not good at business. The gallery I opened last year went bankrupt. I have talent, but no one appreciates me. That's too much. This is too much. Song Simeon raised his head and looked sad, but he didn't look convincing. Song Suyu said, You can even draw a baby with a few strokes on a white cloth. It's a miracle that someone appreciates your paintings. Song's face darkened. How can you say that? How can you say that about a future great artist? Song Suyu said, 20 years ago, you said that you were a future great artist. Even now, you're still in the future. Song, after being scolded by his niece, he felt. If he wasn't curious about Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing, he wouldn't have come. He didn't want to argue with Song Suyu anymore. He looked inside. Only you and her are here. Where's Yanqing? He's inside. I'm talking to Xiao Jin. Why is he listening? SK. Song Simeon walked into the house and called out, Yanqing. Song Suyu and Xiao Jin entered the living room of Song Yanqing's house. Song Yanqing heard Song Simeon's call and walked out. He nodded. Second uncle. Song Yanqing gave him a friendly smile. Song Yanqing looked at his second uncle's unshaven face and realized that he still couldn't accept him. After all, in his memory, his second uncle had always been very steady. His eyelids twitched. Chapter 817. Song Simeon walked over. He didn't care about Song Yanqing's reaction. He looked Song Yanqing up and down and sighed. When I first saw you, I felt that you had changed a little. Song Yanqing smiled gently. My body has recovered. Naturally, there are some changes. It's not that your body has changed. Song Simeon reached out and patted Song Yanqing's shoulder. I think you've become, how should I put it? Immortal-like. You're like the younger version of a swindler on TV. Song Yanqing was speechless. Song Suyu almost burst out laughing. Second uncle, what are you talking about? How does Yanqing look like a swindler? Look at you. You look more like a swindler. Song Yanqing added gently. You've been lying to me for more than 20 years. Song Simeon was speechless. He covered his mouth and coughed dryly. He turned and saw Xiao Jin behind him. After thinking for a moment, he took out a big red packet and handed it to Xiao Jin. Second uncle, I don't have much to give. It's the first time we've met. Give me a red packet. It was a Chinese tradition to give red packets. Song Yanqing nodded at him. Xiao Jin accepted it. It felt like a cardboard shell in his palm. It was obvious that second uncle was really generous. Xiao Jin smiled. Thank you. Song Simeon nodded and waved his hand. All right, you guys rest early. I won't disturb you anymore. I'm going back to my room to rest. So I'll go with you guys tomorrow. Song Yanqing was a little surprised. So early? Song Suyu was also a little surprised. Second uncle, why don't you stay at home for a few more days? It'll be the New Year soon. If you guys leave, what will I do at home? I'll come back for the New Year. I recently picked a place with great scenery. I'll go there for a while. With that, Song Simeon left. Song Suyu also said goodbye to Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing and left. After they left, Song Yanqing took the initiative to say to Xiao Jin, it's not that second uncle doesn't want to be in the Guan family, but compared to these, he wants to travel around the world more. When I was young, I heard Dad say that second uncle's biggest wish is to travel around the world, so he has been changing places all these years. They traveled happily in the name of coaxing their nephew. He didn't use the Song Yanqing's money. After the Song family's old man passed away, the family property was divided into several parts. But Song Shirin and Song Shirmian were the only ones left. Song Yanqing's aunt got a part of it. As for the other members of the Song family who were not from old Master Song's lineage, they only received some basic information. Song Mian had given everything she had to Song Mian and Song Henning, leaving only a small portion for herself to eat, drink, and play around the world. For the Song family, she could spend as much money as she wanted. Just those shares alone were enough to make her lose money. The key was that she had handed them over. Drifting clouds and wild cranes, he could be considered to be free and easy. Everyone had different pursuits, and no one could force her. Xiao Jin nodded. It's good. It's a very free life. After saying this, she looked at Song Yanqing, her eyes clear. What about you? Other than everything in the Song family, don't you have anything you like? Song Yanqing only looked at her gently and said in a low and gentle voice, Xiao Jin, I'm the son of the Song family and the heir of the Song family. I have to give up whatever I get. Everything in the Song family needs to be taken care of. My sister can't take care of everything alone. Chapter 8:18. With a big family and a big business, some things weren't as simple as they sounded. As the young master of the Song family, Song Yanqing had to take on his responsibilities. His tone was natural. I've already gotten something that many people can't get in their lifetime. Whether I like it or not, I don't dislike all of this. What about you? You usually go to school and open a fortune-telling shop. Don't you have anything you want to do? Xiao Jin nodded quickly. No, it's too troublesome. To her, everything that required energy was troublesome. She was used to being easygoing and was very obedient. Even if Mu Jinming wanted her to learn how to manage the Mu family business, she didn't want to compete with the three brothers. There was still Mu Qi in front of her. You only know how to be troublesome. Song Yanqing couldn't help but laugh. He reached out and touched Xiao Jin's cheek. It was still soft like tofu. After kissing her, there were still some changes. His movements were bolder and more natural than before. Xiao Jin didn't care about this. She only said softly, I have to find the 9 array points now. I still don't know what happened to my lost memories. It's already very troublesome. It's still early. Some things will naturally appear when they should. Song Yanqing said, I don't have any premonitions at the moment. He was a spiritual master of speech. Usually, smooth sailing was a good thing. Xiao Jin chatted with Song Yanqing for a while that night. Not long after, Qin Yuan also came and said a few words before leaving. Song Yanqing still went to bed very early. After taking a shower, he fell asleep. Xiao Jin also fell asleep after a while. The next morning, Song Yanqing's family woke up very early. Song Shirin and Song Suyu were busy, and so was Song Yanqing. Xiao Jin also woke up. After breakfast, she was sent to school by the Song family's driver. However, halfway there, they changed directions. She really did receive a message from the Ji family, asking her to go to the main house of the Ji family. Old Master Ji had something to announce. Even if he wanted to announce it, it had nothing to do with her. However, just as Mu Xiangshan had said, Ji Ping'an probably wanted to announce the distribution of his shares. There was a high chance that Xiao Jin would be part of it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have called Xiao Jin over. Xiao Jin thought about it and still went. Before she went, she informed Xiao Fei. He really asked you to go? Xiao Fei was a little surprised when she received the call. She heard Xiao Jin ask over the phone, Fei, if you really give it to me, do you think I should take it or not? Xiao Fei hesitated for a moment before asking Mu Xiangshan and Mu Jinming, who were having breakfast. Xiao Jin said that the Ji family called her over and said that they have something to announce. If old Master Ji really gives Xiao Jin some shares, does she want them or not? Of course you should. Mu Xiangshan put down the bowl and said first, don't give Ji Ping'an share to that little thing, Ji Fanjing. Xiao Jin is his granddaughter. How can she not have anything? Don't be so kind. Ji Fanjing is still under Chai Yueli's control. If Xiao Jin doesn't want it, the money will all fall into Ji Qiyue and Chai Yueli's hands. How can you let them be happy? Of course you have to take it. Even if you take it and use it for charity, don't let those two take advantage of it. Xiao Fei replied, if it's really given to you, you should take it. Like your grandfather said, you can't let Ji Qiyue and Chai Yueli take advantage of it. Xiao Jin replied lightly, okay. Xiao Jin agreed. She hung up the phone. Musichu and Musilian, who were eating in the living room, were also a little confused. Especially Musilian, who immediately shed tears of envy. Why can't such a good thing happen to me? Chapter 819. As soon as he finished speaking, Mu Jinming slapped him again. What does the Ji family's business have to do with you? Mu Xiangshan said leisurely. Why? Are you hoping that your father and I will die early so that the money will be yours? Musilian chuckled. Grandpa, what are you talking about? Do you think I'm that kind of person? I'm not just surprised. Did Xiao Jin actually have a pie in the sky? Although he didn't want to acknowledge his biological parents, his biological grandfather was a good person. Even if he didn't raise Xiao Jin, he should still give Xiao Jin a share. Wasn't this just picked up from the ground? Mu Xiangshan said, What's there to be surprised about? Ping An is like that. He didn't know back then, but now that he knows, he will definitely fight with G-Fan for a share. Sigh. After all, he watched G-Fan grow up. It's not wrong for Chai Yue to be his biological grandson in some ways. It's just that Chai Yue and Ji Chiyue will probably be furious. In the future, when they come over, they will say that there's no one in our family. Why would they be furious? Mu Jinming sneered. Uncle Ji does things fairly. I think Ji Chiyue won't dare to do anything. Didn't you see how angry the first branch was when Ji Sikai almost got into an accident? Xiao Fei was also a little emotional. I didn't expect Jean to become a little rich woman soon, Muzillion. Suddenly, he grasped something important. Xiao Jin arrived at the Ji family's mansion. There were quite a lot of people here. In addition to the Ji family, there were also a few outsiders in suits who didn't look like they were from the Ji family. Many people in the Ji family had seen Xiao Jin before. They were a little surprised to see Xiao Jin here. There were quite a lot of people sitting in the hall. Chai Yue and Ji Chiyue were among them. When they saw Xiao Jin, their faces instantly turned pale. When they turned pale, they suddenly thought of something, and their faces seemed to be cramping. Xiao Jin noticed that Ji Huai was sitting in the center of these people with a pale face. He probably expected something would happen today. Many people looked at Xiao Jin and muttered, not knowing what she was doing here. Everyone knew that the Ji clan's first master was going to announce something, but no one had heard that it had anything to do with Xiao Jin. Ji Sikai was also sitting there. Although he had gotten into a car accident, he seemed to be fine, with one leg crossed over the other. He was wearing a black windbreaker and had a playful expression on his face. When Xiao Jin came over, he pointed to a seat for her. Xiao Jin also took the opportunity to sit down. There were too many people and he couldn't choose a seat, so he didn't greet anyone. Ji Fanjing also looked up at her with a calm expression. No one knew what he was thinking. Right at this moment, the three elders of the Ji clan came out one by one. It was Ji Pingan and his two brothers. The eldest brother was Ji Sikai's grandfather, an old man in his 80s. He walked out shakily and had people support him. He even coughed a few times. After he sat down at the main seat, he saw that almost everyone had arrived. He asked the lawyer beside him to start the announcement. He made a will and gave all his shares to his eldest grandson, Ji Sikai, including important funds, investment shares, and a bunch of industrial companies. He only left some companies for Ji Huai. They wouldn't make much money, but they wouldn't starve him either. It was purely up to his own ability. In other words, the power of the entire Ji clan was completely in Ji Sikai's hands. Ji Huai was as pale as a sheet of paper. Everyone knew this was the result. The lawyer also announced that the shareholders' meeting would be held next week. At that time, Ji Huai would have to be expelled from the company. Chapter 820. This matter greatly disappointed the Ji family's old master. He had completely chosen to hand over the power to his eldest grandson. The second branch couldn't fight for much even if they wanted to, but they also held a lot of power. In the future, it would be Ji Sikai and the second branch fighting among themselves. However, after the lawyer made the announcement, Ji Pingan also stood out. I'm also old. Since Big Brother has already made a decision, then we should also make a decision about the distribution of my assets. He waved his hand, and another lawyer walked out and told him about Ji Pingan's farewell. Ji Pingan held 18% of the shares of the Ji Group's main company and was already a major shareholder. Now he divided this 18% into two. His grandson, Ji Fan, would fight for half, and his granddaughter, Xiao Jin, would fight for the other half. In other words, in the future, even Xiao Jin would have some say in the Ji Group's internal affairs. As soon as this news was announced, the rest of the Ji family exploded. After all, the redistribution of shares involved too many things, especially when they didn't know about Xiao Jin beforehand. This news was even more explosive than the one announced by Ji Sikai's grandfather. Everyone subconsciously looked at Ji Chiyue and Chai Yue. Seeing their pale faces, Ji Fanjing had expected this and wasn't surprised at all. Chai Yue immediately retorted, Dad, this isn't fair. Why don't Chiyue and I have anything? Even if their children were all theirs, now that they were adults, how could they have the right to control Ji Pingin's things? Ji Pingin's expression was calm. I didn't leave money for you. The properties under my name are all yours and Chiyue's. I've given you enough. Chiyue was about to go crazy. The properties were valuable, but how could they be more important than the G Group's shares? Without the shares, they wouldn't even have the right to speak in the G family. There was also the subsequent dividends from the G Group. They wouldn't be able to get a single cent of the huge funds every year. Forget about Ji Fanjing. After all, he was her son who she raised. Xiao Jin was completely disobedient. How could she care about her mother? Chiyue's eyes turned red. If it weren't for some misgivings, she would have wanted to strangle Ji Pingan and Xiao Jin to death. Ji Sikai sneered and said indifferently, Annie, it's not like third grandpa didn't give you a chance. You and uncle didn't cherish it. So who can you blame? Ji Chiyue had failed to live up to expectations and was of no use at all in the Ji family. How could he blame Ji Pingan for being disappointed? If he had the ability, Xiao Jin and Ji Fan would not have been fighting for the shares today. Chiyue's entire body trembled. You only know how to make sarcastic remarks. Forget about Fanjung. Chiyue pointed at Xiao Jin, who had not said a word from the beginning to the end. What right does she have? She is not in the Ji family, and her heart is not with the Ji family. You dare to give her the shares? Aren't you afraid that she will use these shares to do something detrimental to the Ji family? A smile slowly bloomed on Xiao Jin's face. Madam Chai, what are you talking about? I don't understand these things. What can I do to harm the Ji family? I'll just wait for my share of the money. Chiyue was so angry that her heart was pounding. Beside her, Ji Chiyue felt more and more indignant. He also stood up. Dad, I'm not convinced. I have no objections if you want to give it to Xiao Jin, but you can't give the remaining half to Xiao Jin. Ji Pingan's face sank. I can distribute my things however I want. What does it have to do with you? Chapter 8:21. He looked at Chiyue and Ji Chiyue with disappointment. He didn't bother to be polite. Just like what Sky said, you're such a disappointment. If you didn't disappoint me, would I still be in this state today? Don't you know how many foolish things you and your wife have done? As my biological granddaughter, Xiao Jin was abandoned by you for 20 years. I want to make it up to her. What's wrong with me giving her some shares? Fan Zheng isn't worried, but you guys are? The other members of the Ji family also had some opinions. Just like Chiyue said, no matter what happened in the Ji family, Xiao Jin's heart wasn't with the Ji family. It was too dangerous to own the Ji family shares. Ji Chiyue was stunned and retorted, but she doesn't even return to the Ji family. She's with the Mu family now. If the Mu family, why are you so anxious? What's wrong with the Mu family? Ji Pingan said calmly, I've been with Xiangshan for decades. We're closer than your father. Ji Chiyue. Ji Pingan didn't give him face, which meant that he had already confirmed it. The will had been notarized. After he passed away, this large sum of money would be fought over by Xiao Jin and Ji Fan. Of course, he also added that if anything were to happen to Xiao Jin or Ji Fan during the competition, he would also give it to Ji Sikai. This was something Ji Sikai didn't expect. However, he was also roasting Ji Sikai. If anything happened to the two of them, wouldn't everyone think that it was Ji Sikai who did it? After all, only Ji Sikai would benefit. Of course, if Ji Sikai was evil, he could do the same. Ji Sikai smiled playfully, but didn't feel offended. Xiao Jin didn't care at all. After all, Ji Sikai wouldn't touch her. As for Ji Fanjung, it would be an internal fight in the Ji family. She didn't forget that Ji Fanjung had a problematic biological mother who was related to the He early family. Internal fights between big families were complicated. As long as it didn't involve Xiao Jin, she wouldn't care. No matter how unfair Chiyue and Ji Chiyue felt, the majority of the audience acted as if they were watching a show. There were also some who had ulterior motives and quickly took sides to support Ji Sikai. After all, Ji Sikai was the biggest winner today. Xiao Jin was about to leave after hearing the announcement, but Ji Pingan stopped her. Xiao Jin, wait a minute. Xiao Jin stayed behind and talked to Ji Pingan in the side hall of the Ji family. Ji Pingan looked at her and smiled gently and lovingly. Did my sudden announcement make you a little surprised? Don't worry, Sky and I have already made an agreement. He will protect you and Fan Zheng. You can take these shares, there won't be any danger. What you want to do with them is your own business. Since Grandpa has given them to you, he won't interfere anymore. You can do whatever you want with them. Whether you sell them or donate them, it's up to you. He sighed faintly and said, I can only repay what your parents did to you. What's there to talk about? Xiao Jin's eyes were calm. In this matter, you don't have to say such things. Ji Chiyue and Chai Yueli also gave birth to me. It's not wrong for them not to raise me, so there's no need to compensate. Since you think the shares should be given to me, I'll take them. Like he said, what she wanted to do with them in the future was her own business. Chapter 8:22. Ji Pingan looked at her with a complicated expression. Since you can still think like that, it's really commendable. Your parents are really nothing. He said, I really didn't expect Chai Yueli to treat you like that back then. I always thought that Fan Zheng. Sai, anyway, it's all in the past. Now that I've decided on these things, it's a good thing. Now that you have the Mu family to take care of you, I'm relieved. In the future, there might be irrelevant people who come to you. You can ignore them, including your parents. Xiao Jin nodded. Ji Pingan said with a smile, You've been with the Song family for some time. If you have time, you can bring her to meet me. Xiao Jin thought for a moment and then agreed. Okay. It was not difficult. Song Yanqing would probably agree. Now that she had slowly accepted Ji Pingan, it was not a big deal to bring him to meet her. While Ji Pingan and Xiao Jin were talking, someone walked over angrily. Just by looking at her back, one could tell that it was Chai Yueli. When Chai Yueli saw Xiao Jin's calm expression, she gritted her teeth and said, Dad, I want to talk to her about something. Can you let me talk to her alone for a while? Ji Pingan disagreed. What can't you say in front of me? Chai Yueli was speechless. How could she say those words in front of Ji Pingan? She only said, I'll just talk for a while. Ji Pingan glanced at Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin also said calmly, It's okay, old master. You can sit by the side for a while. I'll talk to her. Chai Yueli would not give up until she jumped into the Yellow River. Ji Pingan nodded and looked at Chai Yueli with a warning gaze. You'd better know your limits. Then, he went elsewhere. When Chai Yueli saw Xiao Jin, she could not hold back the anger in her heart. She gritted her teeth and cursed. Don't even think about those shares. I can give you money if you want, but these are the Ji family shares. You have to know that you have no right to take them. Xiao Jin smiled faintly. Even old Master Ji didn't say that. Who are you to say that? You're not qualified to get the shares yet. Chai Yueli almost had a heart attack. Xiao Jin continued, Since he thinks that I am qualified to take it, then I will take it. What position do you have to say this? Just because you are his daughter-in-law? Chai Yueli was so angry that her eyes turned red. If it wasn't for you, if you hadn't appeared, these things would have all belonged to Fan Er. You wouldn't have gotten anything. After saying this, she actually wanted to slap Xiao Jin in the face. Xiao Jin easily caught her wrist and threw it to the side, causing Chai Yueli to stagger. Her eyes darkened. You've crossed the line? Chai Yueli felt her hair stand on end from this stare. Her throat felt dry. Just as she was about to speak, a stern voice came from the other side. What are you doing? Chai Yueli and Xiao Jin turned their heads. Ji Sikai was standing there, staring at Chai Yueli with a dark expression. Chai Yueli was afraid of Ji Sikai to begin with. When she saw Ji Sikai, the corner of her mouth twitched and she forced a stiff smile. Sikai, I was just talking to my daughter. Xiao Jin, I didn't acknowledge you. Chai Yueli's face turned fierce again. Ji Sikai walked over and glanced at Chai Yueli, then at Xiao Jin. His eyes darted back and forth between the two. Suddenly, he sneered and laughed playfully. Is that so? Chapter 823. Ji Sikai's voice now sounded a little cold and lazy. Any, why are you so unruly now? This is the Ji family's main residence, not your house. Chai Yueli's face stiffened. Ji Sikai's words clearly distinguished the relationship between the two of them. Ji Sikai didn't care about her expression and said, since third grandpa has chosen to give the shares to Fan Zheng and Xiao Jin, why don't you hold on to Fan Zheng properly? Don't let your son run away before you get your daughter. You're not his biological mother. If his biological mother comes looking for you, won't your efforts be in vain? Annie, don't you think I'm right? Ji Sikai's words hit the nail on the head. Chai Yueli's face couldn't be described as ugly. Why did she marry into the Ji family back then? Why did she get close to Ji Chiyue? Wasn't it all for these? In the end, it was indeed like drawing water with a bamboo basket. However, the bamboo basket was still in her hands. Even if it couldn't hold water, it could still hold other things. Ji Fanzheng still acknowledged her as his mother. As long as Ji Fanzheng acknowledged her, it wasn't like she and Ji Chiyue couldn't live together anymore. However, this was still far from what she wanted. She had waited for so many years for Ji Pinggan's will. She didn't expect him to be so heartless. He didn't leave his biological son at all and gave it all to his grandson and granddaughter. Most importantly, that was Ji Pinggan's money. They had no right to interfere. As long as he made the will when he was alive, no one could do anything about it. Even if something happened to him and he suddenly passed away, the money would only be in Xiao Jin's hands sooner. At least he was still alive. As long as one was alive, there was still a chance for change. At that thought, Chai Yueli glared at Xiao Jin indignantly and quickly left. Xiao Jin looked at her back view as she left, deep in thought. She said that this matter wasn't over yet. The dispute with the Ji family was probably also here. She was destined to not be peaceful after taking the shares, even if she didn't intend to touch the shares at all. Don't you think she's a little too crazy? Ji Sikai's voice drifted over. Xiao Jin turned around and saw Ji Sikai rubbing his chin as he stared at Chai Yueli's departing figure. She must be a ruthless person to be able to come up with the idea of swapping you with Ji Fan. It's a pity that she's just a flower vase. Actually, she's quite compatible with Uncle. What do you think? Xiao Jin remained silent for a while before saying, congratulations. Now that Ji Sikai held great power in his hands, it was indeed worthy of a congratulation. Hearing this, Ji Sikai nodded seriously. Thank you. Congratulations to you too. In the eyes of others, Xiao Jin hadn't done anything and was still raised by the Mu family. Ji Pinggan didn't care about this and gave her half of the shares. It was enough to see that Ji Pinggan really liked her and doted on her. Ji Chiyue and Chai Yueli had stayed by Ji Pinggan's side for more than 20 years and didn't get anything. But based on their actions, who could say anything? Ji Sikai glanced at her. You want to leave? The Ji family is having a party tonight. Do you want to attend? Xiao Jin shook her head. No need. She wasn't in the mood to attend the Ji family's party. Now that she had taken the shares, she would probably have to discuss it with the Mu family. She would rather go back and watch Mu Xiangshan and the others complain about her luck. Seeing that she refused, Ji Sikai didn't force her. All right, you decide. I'll get someone to send you back to school. Do you still have classes today? Chapter 824. Xiao Jin agreed. Ji Sikai wanted to send her off personally, but he had just taken over and had many things to do. And it wasn't just Xiao Jin who was being melodramatic. He also wanted to quarrel with his father. Ji Huai didn't get anything this time because of his illegitimate son. He was as miserable as Ji Chiyue. At this moment, he didn't find Ji Sikai pleasing to the eye. Xiao Jin was sent back to school by the Ji family's driver. Not long after, Song Yanqing called her with a smile. You took half of Ji Pinggan's grandfather's shares? His tone was affirmative. There was no need to say anything. As soon as the news was announced, many people in the Ji family had already spread it. The circle immediately began to pay attention to Xiao Jin, who had kept a low profile until now and had been raised in the Mu family. Xiao Jin said, yes. Song Yanqing paused. It's a good thing that you took it. Don't have any other thoughts. I know your personality. You'll think that you have nothing to do with the G family. But for G Pingin's grandfather, it's not a good thing that all the shares are in G Fanjing's hands. He listens to Chai Yueli too much. Besides, they can't hold it firmly. The G family's internal affairs were so complicated. If it wasn't for Ji Sikai's ability, it was impossible for Ji Chiyue and the others to hold the shares firmly. The key was that both of them were idiots. They could only rely on Ji Fanjing to fight for a little. Xiao Jin smiled. Then he thinks I can hold it firmly. You're different. Song Yanqing chuckled. You have me behind you. Have you forgotten? Everyone in the capital knew that Xiao Jin's boyfriend was Song Yanqing. Offending her was offending Song Yanqing. No one would ask for trouble. Xiao Jin smiled and said, I forgot that you're still useful. After all, she hadn't dealt with the disputes of these rich families. Her disputes all came from the world of spiritual readers. To her, the world of spiritual readers was still more fun. Money was too meaningless. Song Yanqing sighed softly. Then I don't have much of a presence as a boyfriend. I know you're very strong, but if you look down at this world, there are still many interesting places. Just treat them as entertainment for you. Xiao Jin, they're too bored. They only have money in their eyes. Why don't they find something fun to do? If I have time now, I can go visit Mo Jiang on set. It's more interesting to watch her film. After a pause, she said, her acting skills are probably terrible. She only knows how to memorize her lines, but she doesn't know how to act. The high priest had no talent for acting. This was the answer she got when she went to visit him. She was too embarrassed to tell Mo Jiang. These words caused Song Yanqing to chuckle. That laughter was like the vibration of zither strings, falling into people's hearts. She definitely didn't know that you would say that about her. What's the matter with the person who's creating hype with her? Is she in love? This wasn't Song Yanqing gossiping about other people's affairs. After all, Mo Jiang's identity was different. She carried a blood feud with her, but lost her memory. She was an unstable factor. Now that she had entered the entertainment industry, she was so familiar with creating scandals with others. It was really incomprehensible. She said that there's something wrong with that person. She saw some abnormal problems. Xiao Jin thought and said, I guess she met someone in her memory who affected her, but it wasn't enough to make her remember the past. I don't plan to let her remember now. Some things are better to let nature take its course. If you push her too hard, what if she wakes up and only wants revenge? Chapter 8:25. If she wanted revenge, she wanted to restore her country. Now, there was no country for her to restore. That's true. Finding something for her to do won't make her feel bored. Song Yanqing said, let me tell you something else. There's some news about Wanyin Yunhu, who ran abroad, but he's too far away. That's not the territory of the Huaxia spiritualists, so we can't catch him. There's also someone who's causing trouble. There's a high probability that someone is stirring up trouble with the demonized spiritual seed. I even think that it's not the first time they've done this. Using the demonized spiritual seed to feed the demonized spiritualists? Xiao Jin narrowed her eyes. I've thought about it before. If the demonized spiritual seed has any positive effects, it's only useful to me. Normal spiritualists definitely won't have a way to use it. If that's the case, she muttered, give me the last address of her whereabouts. I'll go abroad to take a look. Song Yanqing frowned. What did you think of? I think they're rivals. If there's a clue, I should go and take a look. I can't just let him hide and ignore me. Song Yanqing thought for a few seconds, then said decisively, no, give me a few days. I'll make some work arrangements and go with you. Xiao Jin smiled. Why are you always worried about me? I'll be fine. If something happens, I'll run. Song Yanqing said helplessly and dotingly, it's not that I'm worried about you. It's my fault as a boyfriend to always let you charge into battle alone. I'm a spirit master of speech and will always be of some use to you. If I feel that something is wrong, I can tell you immediately. Besides, after the fan incident, I haven't had any clues for the next step. I'll go with you and see if there's any breakthrough abroad. Xiao Jin wanted to look for her memories, but so did he. He still couldn't figure out why there were traces of him in the Rakshasa world. The Rakshasa world had been watching him closely. He had to figure out what was going on. Xiao Jin heard this and directly answered, "Okay." After hanging up, Xiao Jin went to class. She didn't have classes in the afternoon, so she went back to the Mu family. Of course, she had to go back to school at night. She couldn't always ask for leave. Even the homeroom teacher began to ask her what she was busy with all day long. As a student, of course, learning was the prerequisite. The Musilian family was also very excited. Xiao Jin had really obtained the Ji family shares. For Xiao Fei and the others, this was one more reason to worry about her. Xiao Jin was now a rich woman. By grabbing the rich woman's thigh, he was grabbing his own future. So when he got the news that Xiao Jin was coming back in the afternoon, he immediately waited at home. Even when Musichu asked him to play billiards, he didn't go. It was rare for him to be able to relax. Musichu ignored him and went off on his own. Xiao Fei was puzzled. "Why don't you play billiards with your brother?" Musilian looked solemn. "What's the point of going out to play every day?" Xiao Fei. "Is this something you can say? The world is about to change." Mu Xiangshan mercilessly exposed him. "Do you believe that he's that kind of person? He knows that Xiao Jin has become a rich woman, so what kind of tricks are you thinking? It's not like Xiao Jin has a part in it right now. What you think all day long has nothing to do with you." Musilian's expression was serious. "Grandpa, what are you talking about? How can I be that kind of person?" Chapter 8:26. Musilian denied it 3 times. "I don't even know what you're talking about." Xiao Fei's expression changed. She reached out and pinched Muchilian's arm hard. "You're so unruly. If Xiao Jin's grandfather finds out about this, he'll think that you're cursing him. Besides, this is Xiao Jin's money. It has nothing to do with you. You'd better watch yourself. It's not like our family can't afford to raise you. Why are you still having such ideas all day long?" "Ah, it hurts." Musilian sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Xiao Fei in disbelief. "When did I do that? How can you think of your son as someone who doesn't know his place? I just don't want to go out. Can't I stay at home with you guys?" Xiao Fei said, "Who wants you to stay with us? We just know that your sister is coming back." As they spoke, Xiao Jin walked in from outside. When he saw Xiao Jin, Xiao Fei's expression changed. He immediately smiled. "Jin, you're back?" Xiao Jin nodded. He wasn't surprised to see Musilian and Mu Xiangshan. He only said, "Chilian, why are you at home every day?" Musilian's face darkened. "Can't I be at home? Am I not a part of this family? In the past, when I went out, you guys said that I didn't go home every night. Now that I'm at home, you're saying that I don't go out. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?" Xiao Fei said, "Why are you so talkative now?" Mu Xiangshan said, "You're so talkative. You're like a bitch." Musilian. His grandfather had the cheek to say that to him? Xiao Jin chuckled. Musilian decided to ignore the blow. He looked at Xiao Jin and flashed his standard 8-tooth smile. "I heard that you inherited a part of Ping, Anne's grandfather's fortune." He used a rather subtle way of saying that part. Xiao Jin glanced at him. "Yeah, what does it have to do with you?" Musilian. "Aren't you going to treat me to a meal?" Xiao Jin, "Why?" Musilian. Seeing that Musilian was speechless, Xiao Fei immediately said, "That's right. Why should I treat you to a meal? It has nothing to do with you." Mu Xiangshan looked at Musilian. "You only know how to poach Xiao Jin. Why don't you poach Ji Sikai instead? He has complete control over the Ji family. Wouldn't it be better for you to follow him? Unfortunately, he doesn't like men." Musilian. Xiao Fei. "What kind of words are you spouting?" Xiao Fei ignored the two of them and asked Xiao Jin worriedly, "What about Chai Yueli and Ji Chiyue? I heard that old Master Ji didn't leave anything for them and only let you and Ji Fan fight for the money. Would they be willing to accept that?" "You can't say that," Xiao Jin said slowly. He left a few houses for them. The price isn't low either. If they know what's good for them, they can live the rest of their lives without worrying about food or clothing. How can houses be compared to shares? Musilian almost died from laughter. He slapped his thigh and said, "If I were Chai Yuli and her husband, I would definitely fall out with him on the spot." Xiao Jin said, "That's what Chai Yuli thinks. She even wants me to return the shares." Xiao Fei couldn't help but say, "She's really shameless. It's fine if it's hers, but this is all given to you by Old Man Ji. This is the world that Old Man Ji fought for. What does it have to do with her? Besides, doesn't she have a son?" Chapter 827. Xiao Fei snorted. She was the one who abandoned you for her son. Now that she got what she wanted, Ji Fan got half of the shares. What's there for her to be dissatisfied about? Without Xiao Jin, Ji Fan would have gotten all the shares. Muzillion knew about this. Will she be satisfied? Of course she won't. I think she'll come to our house to make trouble. Maybe she'll cry and throw a tantrum like last time. She can cry even more than you, Mom. As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Fei reached out and slapped her again. Mu Xiangshan, on the other hand, praised his grandson. That little brain of yours has finally been enlightened. He actually knows how to analyze the situation after the incident. Xiao Jin said, "If she comes, tell her you're not at home. Don't let her in. If she cries at the door, let her cry. Take a picture and send it to the media." Everyone. Xiao Jin was really vicious. Xiao Jin wasn't being vicious. Xiao Jin just felt that if Chai Yuli really did such a thing, it meant that she was shameless. Did she need to save her own face? Muzillion pointed at her. "Look, she's showing her vicious side after taking the money." Slap. This time it was another slap. Muzillion didn't learn his lesson. He hugged his head and stood up angrily. "I'm going to look for my brother. I'm so bored." Xiao Fei said, "Get lost." Xiao Jin also talked about him and Song Yanqing. "By the way, Fei Fei, I'll be going abroad with Song Yanqing in a few days." Going abroad again? Xiao Fei was a little hesitant, but when he heard that he was going with Song Yanqing, he didn't object. "Go ahead if you want." Seeing that Xiao Jin's grades were good, Xiao Fei didn't care much about the school results. Besides, she couldn't do anything about it. Mu Xiangshan clicked his tongue and stood up. "It's good to be young." With such a sigh, he left. In the evening, Xiao Jin stayed at the Mu family's house for dinner, and then returned to school. She stayed in school for the next few days. Song Yanqing arranged for them to meet in 5 days. At that time, he and Xiao Jin would go abroad together. However, before it was time, Xiao Jin received a call from Meng Qingyu. She was a little dumbfounded. "Big Boss Xiao, didn't you ask us to capture a demonized girl who tried to slim herself down? There's a problem again." Xiao Jin frowned slightly. "What's wrong now?" Meng Qingyu said, "She seems to have demonized again. It's hard to say. Should I come to you first? Sister He Yao and the others have gone to capture him." When Xiao Jin heard this, he said, "Okay." She met up with Meng Qingyu. The moment he saw Xiao Jin, Meng Qingyu immediately said, "When we captured Feng Shulan last time, we found out that you had taken her spirit seed. She became an ordinary person, but she had never killed anyone and was very scared. This was the first time we dealt with something like this. After locking her up for a while, the higher-ups decided to let her go. After all, her ability didn't seem like it would kill anyone, but we still sent people to keep an eye on her. We didn't expect that something would happen here. After she returned, she demonized again in less than 2 days. She even ran away. In 2 days, she lost so much weight that she changed shape. Because her appearance was completely different, we didn't catch her immediately. When Xiao Jin heard this, he frowned and said, "Second demonization?" Generally speaking, this situation was very rare. Even if she took the spirit seed of a demonized person, the Rakshasa realm would take it back. Chapter 828. Feng Shulan did not kill anyone. She did not even display her full ability. This was the first time they had encountered such a thing. Because of their wrong judgment, they thought that everything would be fine and let Feng Shulan go. Feng Shulan's life was very pitiful. She had been discriminated against since she was young because of her short and fat body. Her body, which was close to 100 kilograms, had been discriminated against since she was in school. Whether it was in her hometown or in school, she was the most miserable one. Those people laughed at her and bullied her. In the end, she entered the production team, and her fate was not necessarily bad. The entertainment industry pursued the principle of beauty above all. This made Feng Shuilan feel even more pressure. Her obsession was too deep that she became demonized. But since it was demonization, it was definitely an abnormal process. If she relied on her willpower to lose weight, she would be able to do so. She wanted to lose weight, but was unwilling to do so. Instead, she became demonized because of this. This meant that her mentality was too weak. To her, the effect would probably be seen in a short period of time, or even sooner. This ability was simply made for her. He Yao and the others were soft-hearted, so they let her go back to live a normal life to see if she could be saved. Who knew that after 2 days, Feng Shuilan would demonize again? In one day, just one day, she lost 50 kilograms. Can you believe it? She went from a big fat person to a slim girl. When she ran out of the building to escape, the members of the spirit team who were watching her did not realize that she was Feng Shuilan. Xiao Jin's face darkened. 50 kilograms a day? She must have killed someone. Meng Qingyu looked at Xiao Jin. We haven't found anyone else's body yet, but 2 girls appeared next door. They ate too much, and their bodies swelled like rubber balls. They have been sent to the hospital for treatment. This was the spirit team's mistake. They should not have let her go. The Rakshasa realm did not take Feng Shuilan's life. Instead, it gave her a chance to demonize a second time. The main reason was that they had not encountered such a situation before, so they made the wrong judgment. A second demonization was too rare. Apart from Shang Yishan's case, which was a monster forcibly produced by a demonized spirit seed, this second demonization, perhaps there would be a different problem. When he thought of this, Xiao Jin didn't hesitate and immediately set up a formation to search for Feng Shuilan's whereabouts in the imperial capital. Then, he followed Meng Qingyu to He Yao's location to capture Feng Shuilan. He Yao and the others were in the middle of capturing Feng Shuilan. Knowing that Xiao Jin was coming, they sent a message to Xiao Jin. Feng Shuilan had lost 50 pounds in a day. When she was discovered again, she had already become as thin as a bamboo pole. She had lost weight again. She could not control this kind of weight loss. It was as if she was obsessed with being thin. No matter how thin she was, she would feel that it was not enough. She would continue to look for him. Even Meng Qingyu was in disbelief. Since she's already slimmed down, why is she still continuing? Her awakening of this ability is a little redundant. Xiao Jin looked at the photo and found Feng Shuilan's whereabouts at the same time. He said, "Something's not right." Meng Qingyu asked, "What's wrong?" Xiao Jin said, "I can sense traces of a formation master." There was a formation master involved. Feng Shuilan was now hiding in a suburb of the imperial capital. He Yao and the others had already tracked her whereabouts. Xiao Jin and Meng Qingyu rushed over. Chapter 829. Feng Shuilan hid in a narrow corner. Her whole body was trembling, and she felt a little dizzy. Because she was too thin at this time, she kept losing weight. She knew that she was abnormally thin, but she couldn't stop the addictive pleasure. She used to be very fat, so fat that she couldn't lose weight at all. Dieting and exercising seemed to be too difficult for her. It wasn't that some people couldn't change, but they couldn't persevere. Feng Shuilan suffered the supercilious eyes and discrimination of others. She also wanted to lose weight, but she wanted to lose weight without any scruples, without any exercise. There was no rebound. Just a little in just a few days, her originally plump body was reduced to a pile of bones. Feng Shuilan pinched her arm and looked at the reflection of her bony figure in the dirty gutter. A pale and sickly smile appeared on her face. She finally lost weight. She finally became thin now. She was thinner than those female celebrities. No one would laugh at her. No one would laugh at her anymore. Even if her thin cheeks were starting to sink and her flesh couldn't support her facial features, looking as scary as a skeleton, she still felt that she was perfect. Just like her own demonization, Her level of appreciation and pursuit of beauty had reached a kind of morbid extreme. The sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside, giving Feng Shuilan a big fright. She woke up from her self-infatuation and subconsciously looked outside. She knew that someone was catching her. She almost killed 2 people. But so what? They couldn't control themselves. They kept wanting to eat Feng Shuilan's cooking. They couldn't control themselves, and it had nothing to do with her. She hugged her arms and hid behind the trash can. She saw a long-legged beauty walk in. Her skin was extremely white, and the red dress that wrapped around her buttocks showed off her extreme beauty. Her devilish figure was the perfect figure that everyone pursued. She was undoubtedly a great beauty, and Feng Shuilan was familiar with her. Xiang Zhuijia, the latest beauty in the entertainment industry. Because of her beautiful appearance and perfect body, she quickly became popular on the internet within a year and became the perfect goddess in everyone's hearts. The moment Feng Shuilan saw her, she felt, no, she was still fat. She felt that Xiang Zhuijia's figure was still fleshy, which was far better than her current skinny body. She did not know why Xiang Zhuijia had appeared here, but when Xiang Zhuijia saw Feng Shuilan, a trace of disgust clearly flashed across her eyes. Her delicately drawn red lips gently opened as she softly spat out. Truly disgusting. Feng Shuilan trembled because of her words and hid behind the trash can, not daring to go out. This was the deepest part of the alley where the trash cans were placed. The stench permeated the air, and only wanderers would come here. She was a big star who was famous all over the country. It seemed that she shouldn't be here. Xiang Zhuijia walked over. She held back her disgust and pulled out a pair of white velvet gloves from her backpack. After she put them on, she got ready to pull Feng Shuilan up. The moment Feng Shuilan wanted to run, it was as if she was pinned to the ground by something, unable to move. Xiang Zhuijia's eyes twinkled proudly. Want to run? Just as she finished speaking, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. She turned around and saw a girl with calm eyes. Chapter 830. The girl's face was exquisite and impeccable. What was even more amazing was her calm demeanor, which could really be described as ethereal. Her long seaweed-like hair was like a perfect character from a comic book, impeccable. Xiang Zhuijia had been in the circle for so long, but she had never seen such a demeanor. Just looking at her made people jealous. The key was that she suddenly appeared here, which was somewhat unexpected. The girl only looked down at Xiang Zhuijia. What do you want to do? Xiang Zhuijia's heart rose with a touch of vigilance. I'm here to take my friend away. Who are you? You put a curse on her and say she's your friend? Xiao Jin's mouth evoked a smile. It's a bit unethical to have a friend like you. Xiang Zhuijia's pupils shrank. The fact that she was an array master was considered a secret. She didn't expect the person in front of her to see through it. Her face sank, and there was a trace of gloom on her bright face. Are you also a spiritual reader? Xiao Jin tilted his head and glanced at Feng Shuilan. She is now the target of the spirit group, and she will die in 2 days. Why do you want to take her away? I finally know why she can't control herself. You put a curse on her and used her to maintain your appearance and figure. This is a good business. The Feng family was not the only one who used others to do bad things. Xiang Zhuijia in front of him was obviously such a person. Xiao Jin didn't know her, but he had already seen that she carried Feng Shuilan's karma. She put a curse on Feng Shuilan. The energy absorbed by Feng Shuilan not only made her lose weight, but also fed Xiang Zhuijia. Xiang Zhuijia's face stiffened. She was one of the few stars in the entertainment circle who was really qualified to maintain the nature of a foodie. She had done many live broadcasts, and her characteristic was that she only ate and didn't get fat. She really ate a lot. Even her agent was amazed by her talent. Because of this, Xiang Zhuijia used this characteristic to attract a lot of fans. However, they would never have guessed how Xiang Zhuijia did it. Xiang Zhuijia subconsciously wanted to attack Xiao Jin. She quickly formed an array in her hand. Suddenly, the world around Xiao Jin seemed to change color. A thick gray smoke rushed toward Xiao Jin. The smoke seemed to turn into the shape of a skull. It opened its mouth and seemed to want to swallow Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin maintained his smile and didn't seem to do anything. When the skull rushed in front of Xiao Jin, it suddenly froze. Then, it turned around and rushed towards Xiang Zhuijia. Xiang Zhuijia did not expect that the array formation would backfire on her, and immediately tried to block it in a flurry. When the thick smoke dissipated, Xiang Zhuijia opened her eyes. Fang Xuelan and the girl from before had disappeared, but she felt that she had undergone a very heavy change. She lowered her head and saw that her slender waist was visibly swollen as if it had been inflated. She couldn't hold it in anymore. She screamed, cast an array, and quickly returned to her villa. Xiao Jin caught Fang Xuelan. Seeing that she had lost so much weight, he handed her to He Yao, who was not far away. She only said lightly, "Keep her. She won't live for more than 2 days." He Yao looked at Fang Xuelan, who was as thin as a skeleton at this moment, and couldn't believe it. It's only been a few days, and she has become like this. Chapter 831. This is the ability to demonize. It's very strong, but the price to pay is also very high. Besides, she has been cursed. Xiao Jin asked directly, "Who is Xiang Zhuijia?" "Xiang Zhuijia?" He Yao asked someone to bring Fang Xuelan back. Meng Qingyu said, "Isn't Xiang Zhuijia a very famous female celebrity recently? What's wrong?" Xiao Jin said, "It seems that the spirit group doesn't know about it. There are no recorded array masters. Xiang Zhuijia is an array master." "Array master?" He Yao paused. On the surface, the spirit group didn't know about the existence of array masters, so this matter was likely to be taken over by the Array Master Organization. He Yao just wrote down this information and asked someone to investigate. After He Yao left, Meng Qingyu asked her, "Why did you mention Xiang Zhuijia just now? She's quite famous. She's a famous female celebrity who only eats and doesn't get fat. Her figure and appearance are perfect, and her fans are crazy. Many people like her very much." "No," Xiao Jin said lightly. "It's just that she was the one who cursed Fang Xuelan just now. Moreover, Xiang Zhuijia had an aura that she felt familiar with. She was an ordinary array master, but she did a perfect job of casting a curse on Fang Xuelan to change the karma and price. An ordinary array master would not be able to do that." Meng Qingyu gasped. "Why do I feel that there are spiritual readers everywhere now? No wonder Xiang Zhuijia only eats and doesn't get fat. I even saw her eating high-calorie food when she was recording a show, but she didn't get fat at all. No wonder." Xiao Jin said, "Go back to school first." After letting Meng Qingyu go back, Xiao Jin started to track Xiang Zhuijia. She felt that there was something wrong with Xiang Zhuijia, so how could she let her go? She left a mark on her and knew where Xiang Zhuijia was with just a thought. Xiang Zhuijia had a house in the capital. She didn't often move around in the capital and only came back recently. After her popularity exploded, she had been participating in variety shows abroad and flying all over the world. She didn't have much time to stay in the capital. After returning to her high-end apartment building, Xiang Zhuijia was on the verge of breaking down. Her face and body were visibly swollen, but it was not inflated. Her body seemed to have grown fat, but in an instant, a double chin and a big belly appeared. Her beautiful figure disappeared, and in just a moment, she almost burst the dress she was wearing. Xiang Zhuijia was left with nothing but fear. She relied on her face to make a living, and with her figure, it was impossible for anything to go wrong. What was going on now? Even if she didn't bring Fang Xuelan back, this shouldn't have happened. Seeing a fat man's face in the mirror, Xiang Zhuijia screamed in horror. She couldn't accept her current state. Her dress was already torn. In order not to expose herself, she could only grab a blanket and drape it over her body. Trembling, she dialed a number. After 2 beeps, a deep and smooth male voice sounded naturally. "Hello, I'm busy right now and can't answer your call. Please leave a message." "Imo Huan, Imo Huan!" Xiang Zhuijia screamed. "Imo Huan, there's a problem with my formation. I'm suffering from a backlash. I'm suffering from a backlash. You said that it was impossible for this to happen, but now there's a problem. Where are you? Where are you? I want to see you. Xiang Zhuijia was on the verge of collapse. Seeing all this, Qiao Jin frowned slightly. And Mo Huan? Chapter 832. She seemed to have heard this name somewhere before. And Mo Huan? That's right. Mu Xiangshan had mentioned this name when he was gossiping. However, he said it too quickly and just casually mentioned it. Mo Huan was one of Ho Wan's boyfriends. He also contacted Shang Yiran to take revenge on Ji Sikai. Although he didn't know how Ji Sikai found out, Mo Huan should have run away, leaving Shang Yiran to suffer Ji Sikai's anger. Ho Wan was also involved now. The Ho family and the Ji family were still arguing. This was a completely unrelated person who had inexplicably appeared. Even Xiang Zhuijia was calling his name now. Of course, it was also possible that they had the same name. The two people might not be the same person. Xiang Zhuijia was now in a state of collapse. Her body was still constantly swollen. She had been overeating for more than a year now, and now all of it had backfired. Her body should have been like this. Eating without gaining weight was all, because someone else had taken care of it for her. Xiang Zhuijia couldn't accept her appearance at all. She kept going crazy in the room and even smashed all the mirrors. Qiao Jin took a few glances and lost interest in the crazy woman. He set up an array point on her body to ensure that he would be aware of any strange movements she made. Then, Qiao Jin called Song Yanqing. Now, he knew how to make use of Song Yanqing's ability. Yanqing, I need you to help me investigate someone. Now that they were closer, Qiao Jin naturally called him Yanqing. Song Yanqing found it funny when he heard it. Who do you need me to investigate? Mo Huan, one of Ho Wan's boyfriends. When the name came out, Song Yanqing thought for a while. I heard that Ji Sikai's accident was related to this Mo Huan. Why are you paying attention to him? Something interesting happened today. It might be related to him. My intuition tells me that there's something wrong with this person. Mo Huan had never appeared before. Qiao Jin also didn't have any way to contact him. Now that the other party had suddenly appeared, Qiao Jin naturally wanted to investigate. Song Yanqing immediately agreed. No problem, I'll get someone to investigate. Qiao Jin replied, all right. She then asked another child, how is you and her mother now? They're fine. I've arranged for you to go to school now. Apart from Song Yanqing, you was the second spirit speaker that Qiao Jin had met by chance. From this, one could see how precious she was. Even Song Yanqing would take good care of them. He had already sent people to protect you and her son to ensure that they could live a normal life. That's good, Qiao Jin added. Then I'll go abroad with you in 2 days. Song Yanqing chuckled softly. Well, I've already arranged it. You just have to wait. After hanging up the phone, Qiao Jin went to find He Yao again. She wanted to see Feng Shuilan. After all, people who had undergone a second demonization were too rare. Apart from the reason why Xiang Zhuijia had cursed her, there had to be something different. Feng Shuilan was locked up in the spirit group's prison. After the previous incident, the spirit group's vitality had been greatly damaged, and they were now resting. To Qiao Jin, who had saved the spirit group, she was now the spirit group's savior. Even if she wasn't a member of the spirit group, no one would interfere with her. She could do whatever she wanted. Who could stop her? When she saw Feng Shuilan, her extremely thin and weak state had already stopped. She just clung to the iron door of the cell and kept shouting, I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. Chapter 833. He Yao stood beside Qiao Jin and said, she keeps saying that she's hungry, but she won't eat the food we give her. He Yao still felt some sympathy for Feng Shuilan. She had been discriminated against since she was young, and now that she was demonized, she was still so miserable. If she used the normal way, as long as she persevered, she would eventually lose weight. However, some people were born with poor self-control and would always want to take shortcuts. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a group of manufacturers selling fake weight loss pills. Feng Shuilan took a shorter shortcut, which was to use her ability to make others eat less. Qiao Jin said softly, She doesn't want to eat herself. She needs others to eat. Yao was stunned. Like the two victims in the hospital? Xiao Jin nodded. Yao sighed. The hospital said that the two victims' conditions have stabilized, but they kept saying that they want to eat. They won't eat the food sent by the hospital. Now I understand what's going on. Xiao Jin said, Feng Shulan's ability is to transform this kind of appetite. She can intensify her ability into food. If others eat the food she gives them, they won't be able to control themselves. The difference is how much Feng Shulan gives them. The faster she loses weight, the more she gives them. If others eat it, they will become addicted and can't control themselves. When they can't gain any more weight, they will die from overeating. Yao. This ability was too strange and cruel. Hearing this, Feng Shulan's eyes flashed, and she quickly shouted, I'm hungry. I'm really hungry. Please help me eat something. Help me eat something, she begged and shouted at Xiao Jin and Yao outside. Her tone sounded very pitiful. Yao felt a chill down her spine. Feng Shulan, if you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Your method not only harms yourself, but also others. Why do you have to think about losing weight? You can choose a safer method. As long as you exercise and diet, you will definitely be able to lose weight. The spirit group's prison was special and different from ordinary ones. The outside was like a layer of transparent glass. Sounds could be heard, but it was basically impossible to open. This was because although it was made of ordinary glass, it had been strengthened by an array formation master to a degree of hardness. Even a spiritual reader would not be able to break through. Hearing this, Feng Shulan's tears flowed uncontrollably. I can't take it anymore. I'm too tired. It's too difficult. I can't take it anymore. She was too fat. She once went to the gym to sign up, but she couldn't even last 2 days. She really couldn't endure that kind of hardship. However, if you said that she had no self-control, she was able to demonize such an ability. If this willpower was converted into a proper way to lose weight, he had lost weight a long time ago. I'm so envious. You guys are so good-looking and beautiful. Feng Shulan just looked at Xiao Jin with unconcealable envy in her eyes. Look, you're so beautiful. You were born this beautiful. You won't understand. No. You're still fat. You're not skinny enough. You need to lose weight. You need to lose weight. At this point, Feng Shulan's tone had already become somewhat sharp. Xiao Jin's figure wasn't the best, but it was perfect. However, in Feng Shulan's eyes, a perfect figure meant that there was still meat on it, but it was not skinny enough. Xiao Jin looked at her silently. Then he shook his head. It's already hopeless. Because of some wrong judgments, Feng Shulan had ultimately harmed herself. Chapter 834. Yao and Xiao Jin walked outside, and Yao asked her in a low voice, What do you mean by her second demonization? I guess it has something to do with the spell cast by Xiang Zhuijia. Xiao Jin pondered. Xiang Zhuijia must have been watching her these 2 days. Otherwise, I would have been able to tell when I saw the spell cast on her. She looked at Yao curiously. How do you monitor people? Yao said, I'm not the one in charge of monitoring. That person has already been punished. With such a huge mistake, he would definitely be punished. Otherwise, 2 people would have been killed. That's Xiang Zhuijia. Yao took out her phone. Although I can't investigate the matter of the array master, I found some things about her before she entered the entertainment industry. Yao showed her the information. Her grandfather used to smuggle out of the country, but he got American citizenship. Xiang Zhuijia should be Chinese. We couldn't find any information about her before, so she came back later. According to our investigation, Xiang Zhuijia used to be very fat. She showed Xiang Zhuijia's old photos, and her facial features resembled Xiang Zhuijia's. She was as fat as Feng Shulan. In the past, Xiang Zhuijia was also a 200 kilograms fat person. It's not hard to find these photos, and her fans know about it. However, she said that she lost weight by working out, which conflicted with her image as a foodie. We know that a person who lost weight by working out can overeat and not get fat. Otherwise, wouldn't she be slapping herself in the face? More importantly, her fans did believe her, and she didn't get fat from overeating. We checked and found that she didn't vomit. Since you said that she's an array master, I understand now. Xiao Jin said that array masters could do many things that spiritual psyche masters couldn't. Xiao Jin looked at He Yao thoughtfully. She used to live in America? Do you know where she studied? School? Of course, we have both. We've checked the information on the surface. She graduated from Stanford and is a real, straight-A student. The information that He Yao and the others had given her had already stated this clearly. Perhaps it was a coincidence, but Xiao Jin really did see a photo. In that photo, it was a photo of Xiang Zhuojia, who was smiling shyly, and a young man. The man was wearing gold-rimmed glasses, and his face was very handsome. He looked very much like the so-called refined scum. He was wearing a suit, and his expression was cold, showing a sense of abstinence. He had a huaxiao face, and his eyes were dark and deep. However, there seemed to be a strange smile on his face, which looked a little dangerous. Xiao Jin's gaze was fixed on the man, and she was a little dazed. She pointed at the man in the photo and asked, "Who is this?" "What?" He Yao glanced at it and felt a little strange. Why didn't I see it when I was checking? This person should be Xiang Zhuojia's teacher. She quickly found the information and told Xiao Jin. Found it. This person used to be the youngest professor at Stanford. He's an absolute super genius and is also Chinese. He taught many people, including Xiang Zhuojia. He's quite famous, but he disappeared 5 years ago, and no one has found him until now. Xiao Jin said softly. "What's his name?" He Yao said. "His surname is Mo. His name is Mo Huan." Chapter 835. Xiao Jin seemed to be deep in thought. She felt that there was something wrong with Mo Huan that she couldn't quite put her finger on. So this was Ho Wan's boyfriend? She took a closer look and suddenly had a strange feeling. It wasn't that she looked down on Ho Wan, but she felt that a man like him wouldn't agree to Ho Wan's romantic promise. She couldn't describe this strange feeling, but it meant that something wasn't right. Is it him? The person she had been keeping an eye on for so long had finally appeared? If it was her sworn enemy, she would have sensed it immediately. But now, she couldn't make an accurate judgment with just a photo. She could only be sure that there was something wrong with this Mo Huan. So far, he had only appeared in the mouths of the people around him and had never appeared in person. It seemed that she had to ask Ji Sikai how the car accident happened. "Who is it?" Hearing Xiao Jin's words, He Yao felt a little strange. "Do you know him?" This Mo Huan was indeed unforgettable. Moreover, he was the youngest professor and a super genius. With such good looks, he should have been famous around the world long ago. It was just that she didn't expect him to be so low-key. "I'm not sure," Xiao Jin replied. "I'm going to ask about something. If you have any information about him, you can provide it to me." "He Yao, you're not investigating Xiang Zhuojia?" "Xiao Jin, I'll keep an eye on Xiang Zhuojia." "He Yao." "Okay." Since the big shot was personally taking action, they didn't have to worry about it. When Xiao Jin did things, she became a person of action now that she knew some information. 2 days ago, she went to the Ji family's house. Now, she called Ji Pingan and said that she wanted to meet Ji Sikai. Ji Pingan was a little puzzled, but he still passed on Xiao Jin's message to Ji Sikai. Because Xiao Jin didn't have Ji Sikai's phone number. Ji Sikai naturally agreed. They didn't meet at the Ji family's main residence, but at a golf club. Ji Sikai was currently having fun there. When Xiao Jin was brought in, he had just waved his club and hit a beautiful ball. The people around him were cheering for him, and now that he had taken over the Ji clan, other than the harsh coldness in his eyes, he seemed to be in high spirits. There was nothing more satisfying than being in power. Seeing that Xiao Jin had come, he put down his golf club and sat lazily on the side. He pointed to the seat next to him. "You actually came to find me. Let me guess why?" Xiao Jin didn't let him waste too many brain cells. He asked directly, "Was your car accident related to someone called Mo Huan?" Ji Sikai narrowed his eyes. "Why are you suddenly asking about this? No matter how I look at it, it can't be linked to you. Didn't Hoan break up with your brother long ago? It's not like I'm implicated. I'm curious. How did you find out that it was Mo Huan? Ji Sikai's smile was a little cold. Do you know him? Or are you here to plead for mercy? Xiao Jin repeated. I don't know him. I'm just curious. Ji Sikai paused for a moment, but still said, Shangya Ran said it. And the confession of Ho Wan's other boyfriend. Xiao Jin frowned slightly. Seeing her expression, Ji Sikai sneered. Shangya Ran said that it was Mo Huan who found him. I don't care whether it was him or not. This Mo Huan never appeared from the beginning to the end. Even Ho Wan said that she barely saw him a few times a year. But the idea of revenge was indeed proposed by him to Mo Huan. Chapter 836. Ji Sikai said lazily, someone who's trying to stir up trouble behind the scenes. Xiao Jin. Oh! In other words, Mo Huan had indeed never appeared. His existence only appeared in Ho Wan's mouth and the monk's mouth. It seemed that he might as well ask Ho Wan directly. Xiao Jin nodded. Got it? Thank you. Her tone was calm and polite, which made Ji Sikai a little uncomfortable. You're asking me this because of someone who has nothing to do with you? Is there anything else? Xiao Jin, no. Ji Sikai's smile deepened, and his gloominess grew stronger. I'm still your brother. Xiao Jin, I'm very far away. I'm not a member of the Ji family. Ji Sikai. Seeing Xiao Jin leave as calmly as she had come, Ji Sikai sneered. Xiao Jin asked Ho Wan to meet up. It was on the top floor of the building where she and Mu Qiji had their first blind date. Ho Wan wasn't as high-spirited as before when they met this time. She looked a little haggard. When she saw Xiao Jin, her smile was very forced. I can't think of any reason why you're looking for me. Xiao Jin was very straightforward. She ordered a cup of coffee and stirred it with a spoon. I'm just curious how you know Mo Huan. Mo Huan? Hearing his name, Ho Wan's expression changed. Do you know him? I don't know him. I just heard from others that he used to be a professor at Stanford and disappeared 5 years ago. But you're his girlfriend? Or rather, he's one of your boyfriends. I'm curious how you two met. Ho Wan didn't seem to want to talk about Mo Huan. Miss Chiao, I don't seem to have any reason to tell you. Xiao Jin nodded. I know, so I'll ask you directly. If you don't want to answer, I won't force you. I was the one who asked you out, so this meal is on me. Ho Wan paused for a moment. She was a little depressed. Why do you want to know about him? Xiao Jin, I'm curious. I met him 2 years ago when I went abroad. When Ho Wan mentioned Mo Huan, her emotions were also unstable. I don't know how to tell you this. In fact, even though he's my boyfriend, we only see each other a few times a year. He's very busy. He said that he's busy with his research and basically doesn't come home. We usually keep in touch by phone. Xiao Jin propped up his chin. Does he know about your other boyfriends? Ho Wan was silent for a moment, and then she said, I know. Couples should be honest with each other, right? I made it clear when I met him, and he didn't object. However, there was something that Ho Wan did not say. Sometimes not objecting didn't mean that they didn't mind, but they didn't like it. The only person Ho Wan couldn't see through was Mo Huan. In the few times she had met this man, she had never seen the love in his eyes for her. His indifference was obvious. However, she couldn't bear to leave him. He was a man with a very fatal charm. Even Ho Wan couldn't escape. Ho Wan felt that perhaps she was one of the women who had fallen for Mo Huan's charm. She didn't even know if Mo Huan really had other girlfriends. They only saw each other a few times a year. Just the time alone was enough for Mo Huan to have countless women outside. She was always afraid to ask. She could be righteous with other boyfriends, but she couldn't be strong with Mo Huan. Chapter 837. What was the saying on the internet? Young people really knew how to play. People in this era really knew how to play. If you want to know more about Mo Huan from me, I'll have to disappoint you. Ho Wan pursed her lips. I actually don't know him at all. I don't even know where he lives in America. I don't even know which country he's in now. If you're asking me because of Ji Sekai, I can understand. After all, Ji Sekai is your brother. She thought that Xiao Jin was looking for her for this reason. I don't know why Mo Huan suggested this to Shang Yuran. I also don't know how they discussed it. When it happened, it was already too late. Shang Yuran was caught by Ji Sekai. He said that Mo Huan asked him to do this. However, since then, I haven't been able to contact Mo Huan. Ho Wan covered her face and felt a little defeated. I didn't know that they would do such a thing. Xiao Jin, sometimes it wasn't a good thing to have more boyfriends. Look, Ho Wan was still the scapegoat for causing trouble in private. Recently, even Xiao Jin knew that the Ji family made life difficult for the Ho family. Ho Wan had to take the blame because of this. How could the Ho family be nice to her? This was the first time she had disagreements with her boyfriends because of this. Looking at Ho Wan's expression, Xiao Jin also advised her. Sometimes, you should give up when you have to. According to Ho Wan, Mo Huan was more like a troublemaker. It was obvious that he didn't take Ho Wan seriously. If he did, he wouldn't have left Ho Wan alone to deal with this matter. Ho Wan understood, but she couldn't figure it out. She looked at Xiao Jin and could only smile with a pale face. I chose this, so I naturally have to bear the consequences. Seeing that she understood, Xiao Jin didn't say anything else. After meeting Ho Wan, Xiao Jin wasn't in a hurry. She was going to go abroad with Song Yanqing soon. Whether she could get the next clue would depend on the overseas side. This Mo Huan was indeed mysterious. No matter how he Yao and the others investigated, they couldn't get any more information about him. His public information had disappeared 5 years ago. Ho Wan was unable to provide any more useful information. 2 days later, Xiao Jin packed up and prepared to go abroad with Song Yanqing. Muzilian saw her carrying a suitcase and came over cheekily. If you don't mind, take me with you. Xiao Fei immediately rushed over and beat him with a feather duster. He scolded as he beat him. The two of them are traveling abroad. What are you doing there? If you want to go, then go alone. Don't come with me. Don't you have any shame? You only know how to hit me every day. If you hit me silly, you'll lose a son. Do you know that? Muzilian jumped up and down after being hit. You only know how to hit me at home every day. What will happen to my reputation when I go out? You vicious mother. Xiao Fei said, "Today I'll show you what a vicious heart is." Xiao Fei was about to beat him hard. Mu Jinming, who was about to go to work, said, "Do you want me to ask the driver to send you?" Xiao Jin said softly, "He will come to pick me up?" Mu Jinming was silent for a moment. "Okay, have a safe trip." He went to work. Xiao Jin said goodbye to Xiao Fei and was about to go out. Xiao Fei was a little worried. "Have a safe trip," Muzilian asked. "Which country are you going to?" "I'll see if it's on the way." However, Xiao Jin ignored him and went out with her suitcase. Chapter 838. Song Yanqing had already brought the chauffeur to pick her up at about the time they agreed on. He was wearing a white turtleneck sweater, beige trousers, and gold-rimmed glasses. There was a charming gentleness in the spring breeze. There was a laptop on his lap, as if he was busy with something. Adan got out of the car and put Xiao Jin's suitcase in the trunk. After Xiao Jin got in the car, she saw that he was still busy, so she said, "Didn't you say that you would go after you were done? It's just a few small things. I'll settle it on the way." He saw that Xiao Jin was wearing thin clothes. The weather had started to turn cold recently, but he was still wearing a sweater and a coat. Xiao Jin was only wearing a white hoodie and jeans. She looked very fresh and simple. He frowned slightly. When Xiao Jin sat in the car, he asked, "Aren't you cold?" Xiao Jin, "No." Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing reached out to touch her palm. Seeing that it was warm, he didn't say anything. Xiao Jin, "Your hand is cold." Song Yanqing, "I've always been like this." Although he said that, he still held Xiao Jin's palm and felt that her fingertips were slender and soft. Xiao Jin looked at what he was busy with and glanced at it curiously. After making sure that it was something she couldn't understand, she looked away. After Adan got in the car, he saw that the young master was holding Xiao Jin's hand. He hated his eyes for being so nosy and having to take another look. If he had just driven properly, this wouldn't have happened, right? Heartache, loneliness, and coldness. They drove all the way to the airport. Now that Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing were together, Adan was very relieved. Therefore, Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing went abroad alone. However, Atong was still a little depressed. Young master, this is the first time you've gone abroad alone. If there's anything, you must call me immediately. He sounded extremely worried. Xiao Jin said, I'm here. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that he will be sold by human traffickers? As I said with tears in his eyes, I'm just worried that you'll have to transfer flights after you get off the plane. When you get there, you'll have to take the bus several times. I've already arranged everything, but I really can't find a hotel with good conditions. I can only let young master suffer. Young master has never been tortured like this in his life. Xiao Jin. Tisk Song Yanqing laughed and said, It's not like I haven't been to these places before. Don't worry too much. I'll be back with Xiao Jin soon. Awei could only nod. The reason why Xiao Jin didn't tell Muzilian where they were going was because the place they were going to was a little remote. It was a small country in Eastern Europe. It was pitifully small on the map. There were no direct flights, and they had to transfer flights. The last place Wan Yin Yunhu appeared was there. According to the information, the security there wasn't very good. Therefore, Azai was especially worried about Song Yanqing. They sat on the plane for more than 20 hours. Once they got off the plane, they had to take the bus again. If Song Yanqing wasn't in good health now, the Song family probably wouldn't have allowed him to come. Especially on the way, Xiao Jin saw a huge banner outside the local shopping mall. It was Ferdinand's advertisement. Ferdinand had disappeared from the scene of late. However, some of his previous advertisements were still running. He just announced to the public that he was sick and couldn't appear in public for a while. When Xiao Jin saw it, he sighed. What a pity. Chapter 839. Song Yanqing tilted his head and saw the huge poster of Ferdinand hanging on the wall. His eyes dimmed, but he still smiled kindly. What's a pity? Is it a pity for him? Of course not. It's a pity. Xiao Jin touched her chin. It's just that stars make too much money. Seeing her touching her chin, Song Yanqing couldn't help but poke her cheek. Then why didn't you enter the entertainment industry and become a star? With your qualifications, it's not difficult to become popular. Xiao Jin shook her head. I don't like too many people paying attention to me. Although stars made money, they were also busy. Mo Jiang said that she was still in the middle of filming, but her manager had already made arrangements for the rest of her career. She would be extremely busy in the coming days. Xiao Jin didn't have the time to run around. Really? Fortunately, you didn't go. Song Yanqing curled his lips and stroked Xiao Jin's cheek with his thumb. I don't like too many people paying attention to you either. It was hard not to like someone like Xiao Jin once you got to know her too much. Xiao Jin just glanced at him and didn't say anything. They had already arrived at the main city of this small country. It was rumored that the security wasn't very good. On the surface, it was still a very prosperous country, and there were many tourists around. Then they came to the hotel that Yi said wasn't very good. Xiao Jin. A 5-star hotel wasn't very good? Although this 5-star hotel wasn't as luxurious as some of the super hotels in China and had been around for some time, its appearance and decoration were still acceptable. How could the conditions not be very good? Xiao Jin had questions, but Xiao Jin didn't ask. Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing, the two Huaxiao people, attracted a lot of attention when they entered the local area. The main reason was that the two people had very special temperaments. Song Yanqing held Xiao Jin's hand and went all the way to apply for a room card and other information. It was worth mentioning that Xiao Jin had only booked a suite. He asked the hotel staff in the local language, then turned to Xiao Jin and gently explained, This is the best suite, but there are 2 rooms inside. You and I will stay in one, or I will leave the suite for you and get the other one. Xiao Jin shook his head. Just one room. She wasn't so pretentious that she couldn't even accept a suite. When Song Yanqing turned around, There was still a faint smile on his lips. After checking in, he pulled Xiao Jin upstairs. In the hotel room, Xiao Jin put his luggage aside and said softly, "Is this where Wang Yunhu was last seen? It's a bit far from here. It's in another city, but we can drive there directly. The main reason is that if we go there directly, we'll be too conspicuous." Song Yanqing looked at Xiao Jin and found it funny. "You're in a hurry to deal with this matter when you're overseas? The scenery here isn't bad either. We haven't been here before, so we can walk around. Maybe we'll discover something else." "Xiao Jin, I want to walk around, but I'm afraid someone won't let us do as we wish. I can already sense that an array master is following us." She was an array master and could sense that something was wrong when she set up the array. She reacted faster than Song Yanqing. When Song Yanqing heard this, he frowned slightly and followed Xiao Jin's gaze to the huge floor-to-ceiling window in the room. This hotel had been renovated for a long time and could be considered a local landmark. However, it was only a dozen stories high. When Song Yanqing looked out of the window, he did sense that there was something wrong with the hotel surroundings. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.